If the battles of star-shattering stage cultivators are considered cosmic in scale, then the battles of sacred vessel stage beings are no longer mere battles, but closer to wars. As each individual has become akin to an entire world, their battles can no longer unfold in ordinary ways. Kijijijing. One true person detonates cosmic radiation, bombarding cedarwood painting for 60 years. Another true person transforms the very nature of nearby heaven and earth spiritual energy into poison. It seems to be a secret art that changes the properties, concentrations, and combinations of the poison every second. Yet even after 60 years, it does not stop. Beyond this, there are other attacks as well, such as covering the sky of cedarwood painting with an unavoidable eternal morning sunlight, or erasing all starlight shining down on cedarwood painting, so that the heaven tribe of cedarwood painting cannot surpass chi refining seventh star. Some even unleash curses that penetrate the clear scale armor and karmic fire, relentlessly striking this place for decades. Of course, none of this has posed a significant problem so far. The morning sunlight, which even the sacred master's authority could not block, was resolved when Kim Yong created a canopy that covers the entire world. The poison was dealt with by Hong Fan, while the curses were devoured by me. The radiation was absorbed by Oh Hyunseok. Beyond this, the true persons, just as they had done in the nether ghost realm, extended their devilish arts into cedarwood painting, attempting to create devotees that they can manipulate within. They even managed to seize a certain level of authority over the heavens, delivering heavenly tribulation on the cultivators instead of cedarwood painting. Whenever a chi refining cultivator broke through to the chi building stage, they would launch star tribulations. Although these were not genuine heavenly tribulations, and I was thus able to block them myself without much trouble, the protective barriers of clear-scale armor and karmic fire were gradually being shaken more violently. There's no major issue. That's the truth. Up until now, no significant problem has arisen. Every 10 years, I continued pulling and decaying corpse realms and integrating them into cedarwood painting, steadily expanding its size. But fate is the problem. Woven. The star of fate, which appeared in the nearby space of cedarwood painting, continues to ominously shine as it shows me a distant future. The scene of 340 years from now. As time passed, the vision of cedarwood painting developing a flaw continues to drag cedarwood painting closer to that future. The future is drawing us into itself. At the level of the sacred vessel stage, one's vision undergoes many transformations. The eyes of the Earth tribe, which in the star-shattering stage could only see into the past, now allow us to connect with beings through the past. It becomes possible to communicate with beings of the past and draw upon their powers. It allows one to gain abilities not inferior to Ohisio's authority merely through one's vision. Simultaneously, the vision of the Heaven tribe extends beyond mere foresight. The path of the future. It becomes possible to read countless possibilities of the future, like countless grains of sand scattered on the ground. And among those countless possibilities, it becomes possible to gradually approach the desired future. The ability to move towards the future one desires. That is the vision of a Heaven tribe sacred vessel. It is because of this vision that cultivators at the sacred vessel stage have an astonishingly high average success rate of 40% when advancing to the entering nirvana stage. Unless one lacks willpower, has been kidnapped and enslaved by an entity like Yo-Hwi, or is bound to the world, like the sacred masters of the middle realms, most sacred vessel sacred masters find it easy to advance to the true person stage. Welving. However, I sense the twisting of history and future, as seen through the visions of the heaven and earth tribes. Space and time bends under the influence of attraction force, and the future scenes that I am able to approach are becoming fixed into one. The scene of cedarwood painting developing a flaw. This scene, prophesied by the combined efforts of the true persons, is the only future I am now able to approach. But this isn't even the end. Woven. The true persons are already overlapping their domains again, weaving some new symbol within the combined domain. They are preparing another prophecy. Perhaps in about 40 years, around 100 years after they uttered their last prophecy, they will issue their next one. If this continues, layer upon layer of prophecies filled with my defeat will pile up, and in the end, I will be torn apart into pieces by the true persons. The sacred masters of the middle realms might be able to mount some level of defense against all the true persons in the heavenly domain, but I am merely a sacred master of a decaying corpse realm. My own power is enough to suppress a single true person in a one-on-one fight. Moreover, by recently capturing Yo Hwi and putting her on a leash, I have gained the ability to utilize her power as well, giving us the equivalent of two entering nirvana-level forces. Adding in Kang Min-hee, Kim Young-hoon, Jeon Myo-hoon, and our other comrades, our combined power equals that of 3 entering nirvana true persons. However, that's all there is. Just within the sun and moon heavenly domain alone, there are over 100 entering nirvana true persons. There is no way we can defeat them all. Moreover, the 4 sacred masters of the middle realms essentially possess the power equivalent to 4 true immortals. The only reason I have been able to hold out this long is thanks to the clear scale armor and the authority of the karmic fire that judges sins. The karmic fire is so overwhelming that even entering nirvana true persons struggle to withstand it. But if those prophecies are fulfilled, even I will soon fall. There is only one way to nullify their prophecies. Just like that time when I advanced to void shattering, I must do it. Just like that time when I shattered the star created by the combined authority of 50 entering nirvana true persons, with accumulating dust forms a mountain. I must destroy the star they have created. But that's impossible. The reason I can hold out against these countless enemies is because I'm on the defensive. If I were to launch an offensive and try to advance toward the star they are protecting to destroy it, I would be utterly defeated. Then what should I do? Of course, I could use the method the great mountain supreme deity taught me to desecrate fate. If I create a model similar to cedarwood painting, declare it as cedarwood painting through my authority as sacred master, and then create a flaw in it, I could resolve the issue easily. But entering nirvanas are no fools. This method must not be revealed yet. It is a method that must remain hidden until the very end of ends, to be unveiled only during the end. Thus I will conceal it. If I reveal it too soon, they could devise a way to counter it. Then, there is only one way to overcome the current situation. Yona, is everything going well with the preparations? MMMMM. Response comes through her voice transmission. I nod and lift my head towards the fate that is soon to arrive. I will not avoid it, watch, O heavens above. This time I will show you how I overcome fate. And so 340 years pass swiftly. Over the course of 400 years, the true persons uttered 3 more prophecies in total. Each one is a prophecy that foretold 100 or 200 years in the future, so the prophecy that must be confronted right now is only one. The prophecy that states a flaw will appear on this very day in cedarwood painting. At last, as their prophecy comes true, Kiyang, I feel the fate of cedarwood painting being entirely drawn into the scene, the true persons have decreed. Simultaneously, one of the many cracks in cedarwood painting, formed over the past 400 years as countless middle realms were integrated, erupts. Quang, the sensation of my insides shaking causes my concentration to waver. Simultaneously, a storm coincidentally sweeps through cedarwood painting. The storm coincidentally gathers heaven and earth spiritual energy and channels it into the weak point of the barrier. The explosion from the crack and the excessive infusion of spiritual energy into the barrier's weak point, coincidentally, resonate in perfect harmony, shaking the weak point entirely. And in that moment, Quang, coincidentally, one of the true person's attacks strikes the trembling weak point. Chwak. Finally, a flaw forms in the barrier of clear scale armor and karmic fire. Fate has been realized. The eyes of the true persons turn upside down. Beak Woon, smirking while drawing forth the full power of the bright cold realm, shouts, "Itsdone." The sacred masters simultaneously unleash attacks toward the flaw in the karmic fire. At the same time, I snap my fingers. Begin Yona. Then, the puppets crafted by Kim Yon over 400 years all begin moving in unison. Click, 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 click. Songjin had once told me during the fight against Yuan Li. The only thing that can oppose fate is history. The Mad Lord, when I sought guidance on fate, told me, the only way to overcome fate is to leap toward another future through greater strength. Leap forward. Thus, from the advice of Songjin, and the Mad Lord begins my leap of fate. 28 artificial stars form a heavens and emit a powerful attraction force. At the same time, the puppets located throughout cedarwood painting begin to move, mimicking the appearances of its inhabitants. The artificial souls of the puppets flock toward the wonderfully mysterious fortress, hovering at the center of the artificial stars. And simultaneously, the Mad Lord's final act, the ultimate mechanism of the wonderfully mysterious fortress. Yon's play activates. The artificial souls emit attraction force. Through the attraction force, they twist fate, and through fate, they further distort history and spacetime. Jidajidajek. The entirety of cedarwood painting becomes overlaid with the spacetime of the past through Yon's play. The puppets manifest the history of cedarwood painting, spanning 400 years. What stands here at this moment is not the cedarwood painting, flawed after 400 years under the prophecy of the true persons. It is the cedarwood painting over the span of 400 years that has yet to have a flaw appear. The true persons that are attempting to exploit the flaws of cedarwood painting strike against its overlaid spacetime version and are either immediately repelled, or they are engulfed in karmic fire and scream in madness, eventually losing consciousness and entering a dormant state. Meanwhile, while the immortal art Yon's play is active, I repair the flaw of the true cedarwood painting hidden beneath the overlaid spacetime. When the overlaid spacetime finally fades away and the real cedarwood painting is revealed, the true persons can only rage in madness, because their prophecy has been rendered entirely useless. I smile faintly and speak. Prophesize as many times as you like, I will counter it every time. With only my own strength, I would undoubtedly fail. But I have my comrades, the wisdom and experience accumulated over 400,000 years, and secret arts. What I have accumulated is not so fragile as to crumble in just 10,000 years. Now then, as I have defended, it is my turn. I signal to Kim Yon with a grin. In the next moment, Kim Yon activates Yon's play once again. At the same time, I draw upon the authority of Ohisio, and through the authority of a sacred master, summon the power of the past. The scene Kim Yon showed just a moment ago was the past cedarwood painting, and if the Mad Lord's original plan for Yon's play was to show his own happiest moment from the past, the moment I intend to summon is something entirely different. Until now, let me show you just how many beings I have been entangled with. The next moment. Yon's play, Ohisio's authority, my Earth tribe's sacred vessel vision, and the canvas of myriad forms and connections all combine, manifesting a scene from my memory, if only for a fleeting instant. Kwakijijijik. The day of the golden divine, heavenly thunder sects annihilation. It is the very scene of the sky opening, as the eye of the owner of heavenly punishment gazes down upon the bright cold realm. The moment the owner of heavenly punishment's gaze lands, the entering nirvana true persons simultaneously scream in agony. Try taking it. It is the gaze of a governing immortal. Even I, who was only in the nascent soul stage at the time, withstood it. Wouldn't it be shameful if you all couldn't? I have no concerns about Jingli or the owner of heavenly punishment becoming connected to me. Even in the lightning sacred sea, Jingli ignored me and spoke only to Golden Shaking Bird. There is no reason for them to seek me out in this life either. Moreover, I already used the Heaven Tribe vision to confirm this operation in advance. There are no issues whatsoever. Qa. Led by Beak Woon, the screams of the true persons echo resoundingly. Lightning surges from their bodies, and all of them, without exception, are cursed with the same lightning transformation as mine. In the next moment, the entirety of heaven and earth is consumed by the explosive clapping of lightning and thunder. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Some might wish to argue against it, but I am not actually a fool. Of course, there are times when I exhibit symptoms akin to dementia, especially when searching for specific memories amidst the overwhelming volume stored within the canvas of myriad forms and connections. However, I have never forgotten the memories of the important moments in my life. Naturally, I still remember every detail of the time when I opened my mouth recklessly, leading to the entire golden divine heavenly thunder sect and the sky island being grinded to dust. At the same time, I also remember that the owner of heavenly punishment wasn't even detectable by my mere nascent soul stage celestial energy foresight. No, to be honest, It is only natural for even beings on the level of sacred masters to fail in predicting the movements of governing immortals. Thus, the reason I summoned the projection of the owner of heavenly punishment isn't because of divination, but something else entirely. It is the knowledge I gained in my previous life, as I was becoming the annihilation flower. When I became the annihilation flower of the sal tree, heavenly venerable, I perceived that coatrial turned into a worm. Afterwards, as the sal tree heavenly venerable awakened me, I regained all the memories I had forgotten throughout my cycles. Of course, the memories of the 16th cycle still remain completely absent. In any case, what matters is that I regained all of the memories I had lost while facing immensely powerful beings. And among those memories is the true identity of the entity that had inhabited Jian Myung-hoon's body during the 998th cycle. Logically speaking, there is only one being capable of possessing Jian Myung-hoon's body and evoking such horror in Golden Shaking Bird. The owner of heavenly punishment. Without a doubt, it must have been them who inhabited Jian Myung-hoon's body. Back then, the overwhelming presence of the owner of heavenly punishment had completely paralyzed my thoughts, rendering it impossible to deduce their true identity properly. No, perhaps the more accurate expression is that my very origin refused to acknowledge it. I distinctly remember the attitude the owner of heavenly punishment displayed towards me while inside Jian Myung-hoon's body. It was unmistakably goodwill. At that time, the owner of heavenly punishment had shown goodwill towards me. I don't know why, but despite my rather rude and presumptuous behavior towards them, they neither tortured nor threatened me in any way. Considering this, I can only infer that their goodwill towards me runs quite deep. Of course, that alone is not enough to ascertain the true nature of their goodwill, so I performed a divination. A mere sacred master's divination, naturally, cannot reveal the matters of governing immortals. But if it's a sacred master, it's possible to establish a connection. Hence, I connected to the owner of heavenly punishment. Shrouded in the power of the extinguishing divine tribulating heavens, created by the golden divine, I prepared myself to endure all misfortune should anything go awry. After all, when facing true persons, one must gamble at least that much. Then, connecting to a single strand of the owner of heavenly punishment's will through divination, I received a revelation. Although sacred masters rarely fall asleep easily that night, I passed out almost instantly. In my dream, Jingli appeared and stomped on my head with her foot, saying, "They will permit it once." When I awoke, the soft sensation of her foot was still vivid, so I immediately began preparing to borrow their power. The result is this. The spears embedded in Beak Wound's main body seemed to resonate. The seven-colored thunder spears resonate, as if engulfing Beak Wound's entire body. But that is not the end. Uvu. Return, return, I return to thee. Accept Thulaf the great heavenly punishment. The true persons, beings each, and every one worthy of being called sovereigns of the universe. Each and every one crazily emits light and begins to transform into lightning. Pagajik. I feel the tips of my fingers gradually turning into lightning as well. However, the process is noticeably slower compared to the true persons, and judging by the impacted area, it seems that the lightning transformation itself will soon cease altogether. It must be because of the goodwill of the owner of heavenly punishment. I stare at the beings before me. The true persons, after convulsing in the cosmic space, begin quickly entering a dormant state one by one. It seems they are trying to endure the lightning transformation by focusing solely on recovering their strength while in this dormant state. However, apart from Beak Woon, the other sacred masters Ya Eum, Ban Ta, and Hei Lin appear to be less affected than the true persons, as I see them expel the lightning from their bodies. Borrowing the power of the middle realms plays a part, but it seems the sacred masters themselves are far less vulnerable to the power of true immortals compared to the true persons. Pagajik. Lightning writhes within my brain. I have long since passed the stage of thinking through electrical signals, yet for some reason, I feel excitement bubbling within me. I feel an inexplicable urge to torment the beings before me. I just want to scatter malice upon these beings who seem to be on the brink of death. Come forth, Jian Myung-hoon. Elixirs are scattered across the heavens. Normally, once the true persons have been reduced to this state, there would be no need to torment them further. But for some reason, I want to crush them even more thoroughly. And then, at my words, the star-shattering esteemed one who's been on standby, Jian Myeonhoon, steps forwards. Jian Myeonhoon has already reached the mid-star-shattering stage before I knew it. He begins to exert his power. Quarvirung, a three-headed, six-armed lightning god, emerges in the cosmic space and opens its three mouths wide. With it, the true persons who entered a dormant state to resist the lightning transformation begin to be pulled into Jian Myeonhoon's mouths all at once. In matters of lightning and tribulation, Jian Myeonhoon displays dominance comparable to that of Kang Min-hee. The true persons are struck with fear and engage in numerous exchanges of communication among themselves before they start fleeing, seemingly in an attempt to escape the surroundings. Wu-wung. They madly leap across spacetime, as if trying to escape from the grasp of Jian Myeonhoon. But Jian Myeonhoon stretches out his six arms. Red lightning, heavenly tribulation. Indra's net. Quadjijik. Red lightning forms a vast net, covering all of heaven and earth. The fleeing true persons, afflicted with the curse of lightning transformation, are ensnared in Indra's net and bound in place. They roar in fury, unleashing their attacks on Jian Myeonhoon, but all are blocked by the clear scale armor, karmic fire, and the absoluteness of the cedarwood painting. Quadjijik. The true persons, twisting their bodies in unison, employ the divine powers they have mastered over hundreds of thousands of years, as well as their respective immortal arts and immortal treasures, and finally break free from Jian Myeonhoon's grasp. But by this point, Jian Myeonhoon has already consumed plenty of the lightning-transformed flesh of the true persons, cursed with lightning transformation. Kurururung. It feels like I could fly. Exuding an aura far more menacing than before he absorbed the true person, he smiles with a satisfied expression. That aside, it seems like something has taken root in your head. As he speaks, his hand stretches towards my head. Pajajijik. Something like a lightning bolt escapes from my head and is seized in Jian Myeonhoon's grasp. Only then do I feel my mind clear. Just now my mind was strange. Thanks, Jian Myeonhoon. I shake my head vigorously. I thought I gained the goodwill of the owner of heavenly punishment, but as expected, the goodwill of a true immortal is, in itself, a misfortune. It's fortunate that Jian Myeonhoon noticed quickly this time, but if he had been even slightly slower, I might have gone completely mad and suddenly unleashed heavenly tribulation upon my comrades, killing them. As expected, borrowing the power of governing immortals frequently is dangerous. Even though the goodwill of governing immortals brings misfortune to us, I had thought that the power we acquire directly from them would be fine. While my phenomena-extinguishing mantra was obtained as a fragment from the Salt Sea Supreme Deity, it's something I acquired, rather than something they bestowed upon me. Similarly, the current Yon's play is something I acquired from the Mad Lord, and used to summon the memories of when I had seen them, so I thought it was fine. But in reality, it seems that something more is at work. Perhaps, from the moment the owner of heavenly punishment's gaze landed on this place, it would have been natural for everything here, including myself, to have been completely annihilated. It might be because of their goodwill that my curse ended with just this. I shake my head and look down at cedarwood painting. Once no larger than a single human race sky island, cedarwood painting has grown considerably larger over the past 400 years. Though it cannot compare to Middle Realm, it now appears comparable to the human race territory. The completion of the artificial Middle Realm is now about 4,600 years away. The artificial Middle Realm plan is expected to take around 5,000 years. Once the artificial Middle Realm is completed, there should no longer be a need to dangerously project the existence of governing immortals or true immortals through history in this manner. Until then, may we endure without becoming corrupted by the governing immortals. I look at the remaining prophecies left by the true persons. Although all the true persons have all fled and entered dormancy, their prophecies remain. With only the remaining sacred masters, it is impossible to create prophecies about me. No, it may technically be possible, but it would require drawing heavily on the power of the Middle Realms, placing a significant burden on them. Therefore, it would be impossible to indiscriminately unleash attacks imbued with the same kind of absoluteness as before. At last, Baek Woon, having drawn on the power of the bright cold realm to temporarily push the curse of lightning transformation into the future, glares at me as if to kill. So you truly intend to settle this with us to the death? When was it ever otherwise? At my question, Beak Woon grits her teeth and raises one hand, clenching the void. Tingle, tingle. I heighten my tension. Though the true persons have disappeared, I feel that the real fight is about to begin now. Let the stars of the nations hear. Beak Woon's eyes burn. She draws upon the power of the bright cold realm, weaving the light of all the stars across heaven and earth to construct a formation of star veins. It is a summoning formation. Kagagugu. Something massive begins to be summoned within the cosmic space. Jade. The interdimensional void parts its mouth, revealing the colossal something hidden within. It is a world. Beak Woon is summoning a part of the chaos realm, region of the bright cold realm into this place. But that is not the end. Ya-Eum, Banta, and Heilin also begin summoning portions of the true devil realm, purple gold realm, and ancient force realm with their respective authorities. The sacred masters of the middle realms are summoning parts of their own worlds onto the battlefield. This undoubtedly signifies their decision to fully unleash genuine, true, immortal rank authority. Dujujujudo. A portion of the bright cold realm chaos region. A portion of the purple gold realm chaos region. A portion of the true devil realm ominous place. A portion of the ancient force realm deep sea descends into the place, blocking the surrounding starlight and directly colliding with the protective barrier of karmic fire and clear scale armor. The karmic fire burns but does not spread. Instead, it flickers briefly before its reaction dissipates. What need does a world itself have for karma or punishment? Because it's not an entity, the karmic fire that punishes beings is useless against a world. This is a bit troublesome. The four worlds encircle cedarwood painting, completely enveloping it. In this state, it is impossible to proceed with the artificial middle realm plan. Because the decaying corpse realms that I summon will only be devoured by the pieces of the middle realms. It's as if the sacred masters are to benefit at our expense. Kagagugu. The four portions of the middle realms pierce through the karmic fire and clear scale armor before latching onto cedarwood painting and beginning to erode it. Although the will of the sacred masters cannot enter the area protected by the karmic fire and clear scale armor, the portions of the middle realms following there will pass through the karmic fire like a ship catching a fair wind. The karma fire and the clear scale armor remain in place, yet the portions of the middle realm press forward. At this rate, cedarwood painting will be entirely consumed by the four middle realms over the course of thousands of years. But I do not worry. The reason you didn't pull this out when the true persons were present must be because you feared the middle realms might be eroded by them. But did you never consider that the middle realms might be eroded by me? They ignore my words and continue to erode cedarwood painting with the middle realms. No matter how much of a sacred master of true person level you are, no matter if you are worthy of being called a half-immortal, a sacred vessel is still just a sacred vessel. You do not possess the unique authority needed to erode the middle realms. At Banta's cold remark I nod. Indeed, that is true. I cannot counter-erode them. The decaying corpse realm is of a lower tier than the middle realms. Just as water cannot flow back up a waterfall, a world of lower rank cannot erode one of higher rank. Perhaps if the difference was more somewhat balanced, like that between the bright cold realm and the true devil realm, it might be a different story. But what does it matter? That is only the case when one lacks a specialized technique for erosion. Come forth, Cohreal. I send a voice transmission to Cohreal without letting Ya-Eum detect it. The ultimate weapon of erosion, bound by the leash named Coran, reveals itself at my command. Devour the middle realms. Cohreal's tainted soul filling, the heavens begins to exert its power for our side. Chapter 520, Cohreal's Origin Chinese Letter 1. The evil sacred master Co Yunhyan of cedarwood painting, who seeks to bring about the destruction of the universe. To stop him, the living beings of the bright cold realm have gathered once again in a certain chaos realm region to construct a building. No, to be precise, it's less of a building and more of a kind of structure. A structure made of massive rocks. The rocks are piled together to form a circle. At the same time, some tall tree race cultivators are growing high-quality trees in the area, cutting them down and adding wooden reinforcements, creating something resembling a fence. The megaliths forming the structure in a standing stone formation are so enormous that each of them measures as much as 3 li in size. Dense arrays of spell inscriptions are carved onto the surface of the rocks. Hey, go grab that thing over there. This way, this way. To build this structure, nascent soul stage cultivators from various races have been drafted to work together. It has been roughly 600 years since construction began. Approximately 1,000 years since the war against the sacred master of cedarwood painting began. Regardless of whether they were heaven, earth, or heart tribes, all kinds of races were mobilized for the construction site, using their respective racial abilities to transport the massive stones that would be used for the structure. Honestly, I don't see why we're the ones doing this work. A nascent soul cultivator of the leaf race, who is using a demon art to bind spiritual energy ropes to the rocks and transporting them from the sky, flicks their tongue out and grumbles. A nascent soul cultivator of the celestial dog race, assisting nearby, sticks their own tongue out and pants, tilting their head at the comment. What do you mean, why? It's because the sacred master gave us the command. That's exactly what I mean. I don't understand why the sacred master is making us do something like this. To be honest, if the sacred master or the esteemed ones used their power, this kind of structure would be completed in an instant. Just why do we have to be the ones doing this hard labor? Now that you mention it, that does seem strange. And to be honest, that sacred master of cedarwood painting, or whatever is called, is supposedly trying to destroy the world we live in, but, in my view, we're far from actual destruction. Do you think people like us will even live more than another 1,000 years? But here we are, doing all this work to stop something that might happen several thousand years from now. Does this really make sense? Hey, you leaf race idiot. We have to prevent the destruction of the world, even if it's for the sake of our descendants. Well, if that's the case, they could have just called us. Why'd they have to bring along those kids too? The nascent soul leaf race cultivator glances down at the chi building and chi refining cultivators below, who are working hard to contribute even in a small way to the construction. I can somewhat understand them summoning core formation juniors, but what help could these younglings in the chi refining and chi building stage possibly offer, dragging them all here for hard labor, the ones who are supposed to be the future of their races? The leaf race cultivator grumbles, annoyed by the contradictory nature of sacred master Beak Wound's mobilization efforts. Then the celestial dog race cultivator, who had been listening to the leaf race cultivator's complaints, suddenly smiles faintly. Ho ho, now that you mention it, something just came to mind. There's a record in the scripts of the demon race about something like this, about the wars between sacred masters. Wars between the sacred masters. That's right. The sacred masters, who embody the very flow of this vast universe, no longer recklessly clash and fight each other with force like previous realms. Instead, it is said they fight by prophesying fate or manipulating the flow of the world. And we are merely a part of that flow. The celestial dog cultivator chuckles with a ho-ho and points down below. The cultivators of the bright cold realm flocking to this region of the chaos realm, working together here with a single purpose, building this structure, working then resting, laughing and chatting and living this way. In doing so, causing their culture itself to flourish here. That very act is the sacred master's attack. It's such an abstract concept that I can't quite grasp it. Don't worry, as you'll understand soon enough. Ho. Either way, why do you keep laughing like that? Ho-ho, and somehow it does seem a bit addictive. Ho-ho. The two cultivators laugh with a ho-ho and begin speaking to others around them. Thus, the rumor of sacred master Beak Wound's cultural attack, which started from their idle chatter, spreads throughout the construction site in an instant. Kagagugugu. At the center of cedarwood painting. Above the glass cedarwood mountain, Seo Yunhyan half opens his eyes. Halila. As he inhales, the spiritual energy of cedarwood painting dries up. Hulu. As he exhales, the spiritual energy of cedarwood painting fills up again. At the same time, on the reverse side of cedarwood painting, deep beneath the peaceful cloud continent, on the opposite side of the world, a cluster of light begins to bloom. It is the condensation of a nebula. A nebula bearing the name Seo Yunhyan compresses itself, filling its core with light and heat. From the 8 directions of the condensing nebula, certain symbols emerge. Food Chinese letter, wealth Chinese letter, sacrifice Chinese letter, minister of works Chinese letter, minister of education Chinese letter, minister of justice Chinese letter, Diplomacy Chinese letter, army Chinese letter. The 8 characters, engraved as glowing light, burn fiercely. At the same time, the cluster of light splits in 2 directions, breaking into 16 fragments. The 8 concepts that existed in the life of Xiao Yunhaiyan. The concepts that define Xiao Yunhaiyan as a human start to break apart, allowing the existence of Xiao Yunhaiyan to expand from being a subject to a whole. Among the 16 divided symbols, those that fall below become Qi, Chinese letter. The 8 symbols below turn into pure masses of Qi, shining brightly. Each one holds energy condensed to the same level as the heavenly lotus fruit Xiao Yunhaiyan once consumed, so dense that, if an ordinary person were to consume one, they would immediately advance to the 4-axis stage. Xiao Yunhaiyan manipulates the 8 masses of Qi he has created, perceiving that he can control the heaven and earth spiritual energy, as well as the living creatures within cedarwood painting in 8 distinct forms. Among the genetic information of life forms, in his hand lies food Chinese letter, wealth Chinese letter, sacrifice Chinese letter, minister of works Chinese letter, minister of education Chinese letter, minister of justice Chinese letter, diplomacy Chinese letter, army Chinese letter. He perceives he holds the authority to alter the history and information of these 8 aspects. The symbols that rise above become fate Chinese letter. The 8 masses, ambiguous in form yet exuding attraction force, lie within Xiao Yunhaiyan's grasp. Among the fates of the living beings within cedarwood painting, food Chinese letter, wealth Chinese letter, sacrifice Chinese letter, minister of works Chinese letter, minister of education Chinese letter, minister of justice Chinese letter, diplomacy Chinese letter, army Chinese letter. He perceives he can influence the fate related to these 8 aspects. Now he can control how much sustenance a living being is born to consume and what nutrients they are designed to absorb. At the same time, he can decide what a life form will eat in the future, in what manner, with whom, for what reason, and under what circumstances. He has comprehended the authority of food, Chinese letter. He can determine what kind of greed living beings will be born with, what shiny objects they will covet, and what things they will trade and exchange to feel joy. At the same time, he can decide how living beings will trade goods, the methods by which they will engage in commerce, and how their economies will develop. He has understood the authority of wealth Chinese letter. He can also decide the degree of talent that living beings possess. He can now control how large a vessel a being will have to accept heaven and earth spiritual energy, and what kind of spiritual root they will be born with. Additionally, he can influence the success or failure of a heaven tribe's ritual. He has realized the authority of sacrifice Chinese letter. He can control the land and earth where living beings grow, determine what kind of spiritual energy will infuse their territory, and what strength and crops will emerge there. Furthermore, he can decide how the land will change in the future, and whether the crops that grow in that territory and the cultivators who dwell there will remain or leave. He has grasped the authority of minister of works, Chinese letter in his hands. Next, he understands the authority to influence the comprehension of living beings. He can now influence the intelligence of all living beings as they are born. At the same time, he can interfere with the entire process by which living beings hear, see, and comprehend the world around them. Those who earn his goodwill will see their talents grow, while those who earn his malice will see their talents diminish endlessly. He has gained the authority of Minister of Education, Chinese letter. Furthermore, he has gained the ability to draw upon the absoluteness of the world itself. For the safety of the living beings in cedarwood painting, he can move them to places of his choosing, foresee the tribulations and calamities that await them, and manipulate the world's absoluteness to increase the thickness of the dimensional barrier for their protection. As a sacred vessel, sacred master, his authority for defensive battles have improved significantly. The authority of Minister of Justice, Chinese letter, bows its head before him. He has also gained command over language, communication, and culture. Through the culture, language, and communication of living beings, he can transform the world. Conversely, by transforming the world, he can alter the power of culture, language, and communication of living beings. In addition, he can control how the culture, language, and communication methods of living beings will change in the future. This is the authority of diplomacy, Chinese letter. Finally, Xiao Yunhaiyan can now determine how the living beings of cedarwood painting will undergo conflict. He can control how they would fight and shape the intensity and flow of their battle. Moreover, he can even transform species through conflict, molding them within his grasp. He can roughly define how the species will fight and change in the future. This is the authority of Army Chinese letter. Qi. The 16 symbols of Qi and fate are sucked into the center of the nebula, into the light's core. TSDSDSDSDSDSDS. Flash. The world trembles at that moment, and from the center of the nebula, a fixed star Chinese letter is born. The owner of that star, the being that resides within cedarwood painting. Xiao Yunhaiyan clenches his fist in the center of the star and looks upward. Within the secret space of cedarwood painting, hidden on the reverse side of the peaceful cloud continent. There he gazes upon the massive mandala, engraved on the reverse side of cedarwood painting. It's accelerating. The reason Xiao Yunhaiyan declared war against all the true persons and sacred masters was not merely because he is a madman. The mandala of cedarwood painting. It was also because he discovered the power possessed by the will of cedarwood painting. The more intense my battles with the sacred masters become, the faster my cultivation progresses. Now, having reached the mid-sacred vessel stage, he looks down at the fixed star beneath his feet and communes with the will of cedarwood painting. The will of cedarwood painting desires something very simple from Xiao Yunhaiyan. Conflict, Chinese letter. The more he struggles, the more he clashes with others, the faster his cultivation progresses. The more Xiao Yunhaiyan observes the authority of cedarwood painting, the more he thinks it resembles Kim Young-hoon. Of course, unlike Kim Young-hoon, the speed granted by cedarwood painting isn't limited solely to martial arts. Young-hoon Hyung-nim also grew faster the more he faced powerful opponents and gained quality experiences. Cedarwood painting seems to endow its sacred master with a talent similar to Kim Young-hoon. At this rate, I can definitely reach the grand perfection of sacred vessel stage within 7,000 years and challenge the entering nirvana stage advancement. Xiao Yunhaiyan momentarily savors the omnipotence coursing through his hands. Now he can mold every aspect of cedarwood painting's living beings like clay. It is even possible for him to play with a single life, as though moving a pawn on a chessboard. No, it is not just the life of a single person. The fate of all groups and organizations in this world will now change entirely according to Xiao Yunhaiyan's will. This is precisely the power of sacred masters, whose authorities within their respective domains rival that of true immortals. The erosion of the middle realms will be completely dealt with by Xiao Atrial, who will instead absorb the middle realms into cedarwood painting, so there's no issue. If the attacks of the sacred masters are absorbed this time with Xiao Atrial's help, Xiao Yunhaiyan's cedarwood painting will grow even larger than before, significantly accelerating the progress of his artificial middle realm plan. However, Xiao Yunhaiyan's focus shifts away from such matters to something else entirely. Woven. Above Xiao Yunhaiyan's hand, the heat of the fixed star shimmers as it blossoms into the form of a flower. It is flower soul filling the heavens. Sururuk. Xiao Yunhaiyan's flower soul filling the heavens slips into the darkness, flowing backward through history. Canvas of myriad forms and connections, flower soul filling the heavens. Star envoy's authority, Chinese letter. TL, star envoy and sacred master are written and pronounced the same way in Korean. The canvas of myriad forms and connections, which records Xiao Yunhaiyan's history. The flower soul filling the heavens that became completed through Ryo Hwa's inheritance. The authority of a sacred master to read history within cedarwood painting. And the authority of Oh Haisio and my subheart sword. Xiao Yunhaiyan draws out Oh Haisio's authority from within his heart essence and forges the subheart sword in the void, opening his eyes wide. With this, I can track it. Through Xiao Yunhaiyan's near-omniscient senses inside cedarwood painting, the locations of Xiao Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens are pinpointed one by one. Even Xiao Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens remains unaware of this reverse world of cedarwood painting. Shia. All the authorities Xiao Yunhaiyan spoke of flow into his subheart sword. Canvas of myriad forms and connections, flower soul filling the heavens, the star envoy's authority. And the subheart sword, imbued with Oh Haisio's authority, follows Xiao Yunhaiyan's will and slips deep into the soul of Xiao Ran, who coincidentally had just been thinking of Xiao Yunhaiyan. Parrot. Seo Yunhyan discovers a curse and an immortal art deep within Seo Ran's soul. One is the curse cast by the Yama True Lord, the chief judge of the Netherworld, upon Seo Atrial. The other is the immortal art left by Guak Ahem in the world of Pinglai Island, designed to fix one's will. Seo Yunhyan's will reaches the depths of Seo Ran's soul, effortlessly bypassing the immortal art left by Guak Ahem and arriving at the curse laid by the Yama True Lord. Pitch-black darkness welcomes him. Now I can reach you, Seo Atrial. Seo Yunhyan begins retracing Seo Ran's history. The authority of Ohai Seo, the star envoy's authority, the canvas of myriad forms and connections, and flower soul filling the heavens seep into the deepest depths of Seo Ran's soul. You will show me your true story. Step. Seo Yunhyan takes a single step towards the curse of the Yama True Lord, located deep in Seo Ran's heart essence. Beyond this curse lies the very depths of Seo Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens. It is the place where he must have hidden everything. To bypass the canopy created by the Yama True Lord's curse and reach Seo Atrial's depths, it will take approximately 6,000 years. In 6,000 years, all of Seo Atrial's stories will be revealed to Seo Yunhyan. And so 4,000 years pass. In a Chaos Realm region of a Middle Realm, which now envelops cedarwood painting. The Seo Atrials, who have infiltrated the Chaos Realm region and assimilated into the relocated living beings, so subtly that even the sacred masters of each realm would find it hard to notice, simultaneously burst into laughter. Ho ho! One of the Seo Atrials among them, in order to offer parts of the Middle Realms to Seo Yunhyan, raises his hand and activates tainted soul filling the heavens. The world is being eroded by tainted soul filling the heavens. It is such a secretive erosion that even the sacred masters, who are the owners of the world, are unaware of the erosion occurring within their own realms. The full-scale erosion by tainted soul filling the heavens carried out over 4,000 years. With that erosion, everything begins to laugh. Even the living beings with ordinary mortal fates. Even the cultivators walking the path of immortal cultivation. Even the supervisors managing the scene, and the monsters living in the Chaos Realm regions. All of them let out ho-ho while staring at one place. It is the place where the stone structure they have built over 4,000 years is located. Towards that place, everyone laughs with a ho-ho. Payet. At the center of the circular structure, something is being projected there. Woven. It is the image of cedarwood painting. The image of cedarwood painting has been reduced to a small size and is being reflected beneath the sky of the bright cold realm. As this image is gradually absorbed as a part of the bright cold realm, it fades due to the cultures and consciousness, lives and histories, as well as the fates of the living beings. However, the moment Seo Atrial starts to laugh, woven, the fading image of cedarwood painting becomes distinct and starts to grow in size. It is not just in the bright cold realm. The same is happening in the ancient force realm, purple gold realm, and true devil realm, where cedarwood painting is currently being eroded. In those places as well, living beings have gathered in a chaos realm region, the deep sea, and other such places to construct structures, projecting the image of cedarwood painting at the center to integrate it into the bright cold realm. But at this very moment, the image of cedarwood painting seems to grow larger according to Seo Atrial's will before cedarwood painting itself truly rises into the sky above the Chaos Realm regions. Bright Cold Realm, True Devil Realm, Ancient Force Realm, and Purple Gold Realm. The outskirts of these four worlds. The Chaos Realm regions are being covered by the authority of cedarwood painting, and under Seo Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens, they begin to separate from each of their middle realms. Originally, during the Bright Cold Realm's invasion of the True Devil Realm, the vast cold Jade eroded the True Devil Realm's devilish energy into the heaven and earth spiritual energy of the Bright Cold Realm, transforming the True Devil Realm into part of the Bright Cold Realm. Similarly, the energy of cedarwood painting is now eroding the lands of the Bright Cold Realm and the other middle realms. It is a glass-colored flame. The glass-colored flame surges like a wave, engulfing the living beings captured for forced labor, and soon they are inhaling the heaven and earth spiritual energy of cedarwood painting along with its glass true fire. By the time the sacred masters of the middle realms realize what is happening, it is already too late. Kagagugu. Cedarwood painting vibrates and begins to tear apart the Chaos Realm regions of each middle realm, as if a predator is ripping into chunks of flesh. Chwararak. From cedarwood painting, thousands of candle dragons emerge. Shrouded in glass true fire, they embed spiritual jade known as cedarwood advancing jade, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, into various places. Just like with the vast cold jade, the cedarwood advancing jades begin to completely alter and erode the heaven and earth, spiritual energy, and spirit veins of the bright cold realm from their very roots. And then in an instant, Kujujujudo, earthquakes sweep across the Chaos Realm regions of each middle realm. Beekwoon, enraged, forges a spear from clouds and hurls it at cedarwood painting. Heilin crushes the armrest of the dragon throne, stirring the deep sea. Banta, glowing furiously, unleashes a beam of light from his mouth. Yaim, expression serious, seems to be deep in thought about something. However, none of them can stop cedarwood painting's erosion of the middle realms. Without even rats or birds knowing, an immortal art that erodes everything by the time one notices. That is precisely tainted soul filling the heavens. Chichichichichi. Parts of the middle realms are torn away by cedarwood painting, and amidst the sacred master's wrath, cedarwood painting sacred master Seo Yunhyan smiles. At last it is complete. Kagagugu. Portions of the middle realms, and 2,800 worlds of decaying corpse realms. After nearly 5,000 years, a portion of Seo Yunhyan's plan has finally come to fruition. The artificial middle realm plan. Devised based on the liberation law talent of Kim Yon, a human-made middle realm. Though it remains far inferior in absoluteness compared to a true middle realm, and much more fragile and crude, its weight class has now reached a point where it can no longer be dismissed. Wulong. At the center of cedarwood painting, now using the vastly increased weight class of cedarwood painting, Seo Yunhyan leaps to the next stage of the plan. Flash. Seo Yunhyan's fixed star, having reached the end of its lifespan, begins to dim with light gradually fading. However, its volume starts to expand. From the center of the fixed star, Seo Yunhyan half opens his eyes. Correctness. At his single utterance, the light of the entire cedarwood painting transforms. The light, which had previously shone down uniformly, now intensifies with even greater brilliance. Seo Yunhyan recalls the years that have passed. The 4,000 years after reaching the mid-sacred vessel stage, when he obtained the authority of the 8 paths and used it to desperately resist the erosion of the 4 middle realms. Now those years are behind him. And with those years, through refining his abilities, he has also fully grasped the formula of the mid-sacred vessel stage, the formula of correctness and straightforwardness, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. If the formulae of the early sacred vessel stage, year Chinese letter, month Chinese letter, day Chinese letter, hour letter F971, calendar letter F98C, are about evenly distributing the world's light. Then, the mid-stage formula of correctness and straightforwardness is about letting the light shine down upon the world correctly and straightforwardly. The authority of a sacred vessel sacred master is derived entirely from light. The authority of the 8 paths they wield. In other words, the ability to freely manipulate the 8 concepts of the world they inhabit originates entirely from the power of light. Thus, to grow as a sacred master means to grow one's ability to wield light. I'm almost there. Light is an indispensable existence for life. To living beings, light is everything. It is both a blessing and grace, a guide that helps countless living beings continue surviving in this world. That is why sacred masters gain the authority to control the lives of living beings in exchange for providing them with light. Seo Yunhyan perceives that because he has been correctly and straightforwardly supplying light, he can now correctly and straightforwardly seize control over the fate of cedarwood painting. Now it's time for the late sacred vessel stage, strong rule, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. The formula for strong rule is to supply light strongly. By strongly supplying the living beings of cedarwood painting with light, grace, and blessings, he can in return obtain an even stronger authority to forcefully control their lives. This is the cultivation of the late sacred vessel stage. To control someone's fate in history, one must first bestow grace upon them. Because it becomes possible to strongly control one's world even more forcefully from the late sacred vessel stage, the precision of one's control over the world increases considerably. While even more actively bestowing cedarwood painting with light, blessings, and good fortune, Seo Yunhyan opens his eyes. Cedarwood painting, which has been turned into a vast middle realm by Seo Atrial, feels like it's firmly within the palm of his hand. Only one step to the grand perfection sacred vessel stage, but I can do it even now. Seo Yunhyan's eyes gleam. Generally, it is standard to reach a realm's grand perfection before progressing to the next realm. However, a standard is just a standard. It is possible to advance to the next realm directly from the late stage. At the late Qi building stage, it is possible to challenge the golden core stage directly because one has already created 21 stars, completing 3/4 of the heavenly sphere diagram necessary to lay the foundation for the golden core. At the late core formation stage, it is possible to directly challenge the nascent soul stage because one has already completely taken control of their body's spiritual energy and thoroughly made their entire selves into an altar. At the late nascent soul stage, it is also possible to challenge the heavenly being stage because the 5 elements have already been added to the yin-yang spirit. For the heavenly being stage, even without the formulas of acceptance at fate's end or the vast cold heavenly circle, it is possible to progress to the next realm because the cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter has already been completed. Similarly, for the late 4-axis stage, the completion of the 4-axis canopy allows for advancement to the integration stage without issue. In truth, for every realm, even without achieving grand perfection, it is possible to progress to the next realm during the late stage, though the success rate will be significantly lower. If combined with the power of cedarwood painting, it's possible to immediately challenge the entering nirvana stage. Furthermore, Seo Yunhyan smiles faintly. He has broken through an insane level of difficulty to reach the sacred vessel stage through heaven and earth dual cultivation. Thus, even if he reaches the entering nirvana stage as a heaven tribe or earth tribe, the remaining path would still be in the sacred vessel stage. This means that, even after reaching the entering nirvana stage, he would still be able to cultivate as a sacred master, making him a one-of-a-kind existence within the sun and moon heavenly domain. If I reach the entering nirvana bind with the authority of cedarwood painting, I'll be able to touch the plane of fate. Just as the other true persons had done by combining their powers, Seo Yunhyan would also be able to perform prophecies. If I can just achieve that, my plan will undoubtedly succeed. It's not impossible, but... Seo Yunhyan looks at Seo Atrial, who had just helped him complete the artificial middle realm using tainted soul filling the heavens. Seo Atrial seems unaware of Seo Yunhyan's gaze. No, perhaps he notices, but is pretending not to. I just can't figure out what that guy is thinking. Although Seo Yunhyan is capable of reading the thoughts of the living beings within this plane, Seo Atrial's true thoughts remain beyond him. This is because Seo Atrial's thoughts reside only within his most hidden place. It does not leave the deepest recesses of tainted soul filling the heavens. Aside from that, the only thoughts Seo Yunhyan can read in Seo Atrial's mind are those filled with trivialities like flame-grilled sea cucumbers or grilled eel rice bowls prepared by Oh Hi Seo. This glutton who thinks of nothing but food, could it really be that nothing else occupies his head? Seo Yunhyan jokingly grumbles about Seo Atrial. Of course, Seo Atrial wouldn't hear him, but Seo Yunhyan does so just in case. The bastard can't be trusted. The advancement to the entering nirvana stage inevitably creates a moment of vulnerability. Will Seo Atrial truly do nothing during Seo Yunhyan's advancement, or will he attempt something? Not being able to know that uncertainty is the biggest issue. After pondering for a moment, Seo Yunhyan finally makes a decision. Fine, for now, let's challenge the entering nirvana advancement ritual. However, he decides to keep this a secret from Seo Atrial and his other comrades. He must complete the advancement to the entering nirvana stage in complete secrecy, without anyone knowing. The path to advance, the Earth Tribe path, seems best. Advancing through the Heaven Tribe path is cumbersome, requiring numerous procedures. In contrast, the Earth Tribe advancement ritual, which focuses on explosions, and only explosions, is much simpler. With my current state, the time required for advancing to the entering nirvana stage should be roughly 1,800 to 2,000 years. Seo Yunhyan calculates the timeline and narrows his eyes. It will likely coincide with the time I reach the deepest depths of Seo Atrial's tainted soul, filling the heavens. Whether Seo Yunhyan can successfully advance to the entering nirvana stage in secret without anyone knowing, reach the deepest recesses of tainted soul filling the heavens, seize Seo Atrial's everything, and bring his plans to fruition. Or whether Seo Atrial will discover him midway and execute the move he is undoubtedly preparing right now. That will decide the outcome of this duel. I know what you're preparing right now, Seo Atrial. Seo Yunhyan's eyes glint. At some point, Seo Atrial began pretending to cooperate with Seo Yunhyan while secretly searching for the whereabouts of Oh Hai Seo's split soul, Seo Hai, which escaped from Seo Yunhyan's grasp. Seo Hai's location is already on the verge of being captured by Seo Atrial's information network. It seems he intends to use Seo Hai to connect to Seo Ran in some way, but Seo Yunhyan smiles faintly. It's already too late, Seo Atrial. Seo Hai is already nearly completing Seo Ran's tainted soul filling the heavens. Whatever Seo Atrial is scheming, he will not be able to obtain what he desires. Believing this, Seo Yunhyan splits himself into two. The flow of the entity known as Seo Yunhyan divides into three: Heaven Tribe, Earth Tribe, and the martial artist Seo Yunhyan. Among them, the martial artist Seo Yunhyan uses hidden heavens beyond the path on the Earth Tribe Seo Yunhyan. The existence of the Earth Tribe Seo Yunhyan reaches the domain of purity, almost vanishing entirely from the world. Thus, hidden from everyone's sight, the Earth Tribe Seo Yunhyan begins his advancement to the entering nirvana stage. Chapter 522, Seo Atrial's Origin, Chinese Letter, 3. Blink. Seo Atrial opens his eyes. Has the opportunity come? The gaze of Seo Yunhyan, who has been persistently following him all this time. At last it has diminished. At the same time, he senses that the surveillance over Seo Ran has also weakened. Seo Yunhyan is preoccupied with something important. Even if he has completed the artificial middle realm, for him to slacken his surveillance of me while the sacred masters are keeping a watchful eye. Seo Atrial quickly predicts Seo Yunhyan's actions within tainted soul, filling the heavens, and smiles faintly. Entering nirvana advancement, that must be it as expected. He looks down at his hand. I'm holding on by pouring every kind of secret art into it, but it's difficult. Seo Atrial's collapse is accelerating. The connections among the tainted soul filling the heavens, scattered across the entire universe, are gradually thinning. That being knows me well. Terrifyingly, Seo Yunhyan has been suppressing Seo Atrial in a way optimized to weaken his power. From severing his connection with Seo Ran, and forcing the erosion of the middle realms while evading the watchful eyes of the sacred masters. Forcibly summoning the star veins of the astral realm through tainted soul, filling the heavens to sketch a star vein formation exclusively for cedarwood painting. All of it consumes a tremendous amount of tainted soul filling the heavens, and each time such missions continue, the connection between Seo Atrials grow weaker. At this rate, Seo Atrial will collapse much sooner than he anticipated. Seo Yunhyan, perhaps, is deliberately aiming for that outcome. Should I act now? Seo Atrial's vertical pupils widen as he sinks into thought. He has two plans, Plan 1 and Plan 2. Plan 1 offers a method to immediately seize Seo Ran. Plan 2 requires more time, but allows him to thoroughly manipulate Seo Yunhyan and achieve his ultimate goal. If he follows Plan 1, there is a 4 in 10 chance of reclaiming Seo Ran from Seo Yunhyan's grasp. However, if he follows Plan 2, there is a 9 in 10 chance of successfully manipulating Seo Yunhyan. But there's not much time. Moreover, if I miss this moment when that bizarre old monster is focused on advancing to entering nirvana, I don't know when another opportunity will come. I need to execute Plan 1, but the problem is the success rate. A mere 40%. No, even that is an optimistic estimate. When he adjusts the probability coldly and rationally, the probability is no more than 18%. Must I gamble on such slim odds? With his vertically slit pupils, Seo Atrial quietly gazes up at the sky. Is there truly no way to escape the hands of that old monster Seo? I'm searching for Seo Hai, but even if I find Seo Hai, surely that old monster must have done something. It might not even be the split soul of Oh Hai Seo I once knew. If that's the case, then what am I supposed to do? Seo Atrial feels as though he can't breathe. He's simply trying to find a way to deal with Seo Yunhyan, but every time he thinks of Seo Yunhyan, no solution comes to mind. To defeat Seo Yunhyan now, I need a single variable that can deceive his eyes. Shudder. Seo Atrial looks at his trembling arm and lets out a faint sigh. Then, following Seo Yunhyan's orders, he continues assisting Kim Yeon with adjusting cedarwood painting. Cedarwood painting, loosely tied together with the power of countless decaying corpse realms and parts of the middle realms, must be adjusted frequently to keep functioning as a world. Of course, this will eventually be resolved after tens of thousands of years, once the adjustments are complete. Wuvung. Seo Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens is touched by Kim Yeon's consciousness. Kim Yeon's thread of consciousness, inherited from the Mad Lord's wonderfully mysterious innate heart canon, reaches Seo Atrial and delivers an order to him. Seo Atrial somehow feels as though this entire situation is as if he is working under the Mad Lord's orders. In his lifetime, I couldn't touch the Mad Lord himself, but I controlled his direction with my own hands. Yet now, after his death, I am controlled by the hand of his disciple. It is in a way an ironic situation. And as Seo Atrial is thinking this, suddenly, for a very brief moment after receiving Kim Yeon's command, Seo Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens falters. It is a fleeting instant, an incredibly brief moment, but through Kim Yeon, Seo Atrial senses the power of the bright cold realm that Kim Yeon has been cultivating within the Mad Lord's wonderfully mysterious fortress. The authority that Hyun Eum or Blood Yin would call the power of vast cold. Seo Atrial, albeit briefly, witnesses that power using Kim Yeon as a medium. That is all. But just that alone sparks an inspiration in Seo Atrial's mind. It is a coincidence. No, perhaps it is fate. But the crucial point is that just witnessing the power of vast cold for a moment allows Seo Atrial to think of a new plan that he could not have conceived before. Seo Atrial silently observes the plan that arises in his mind, and he realizes that this plan has a considerably high chance of success. Why have I been unable to think of this plan until now? Seo Atrial quickly understands the reason. I see, that's right, because this is completely different from the oath I made and embedded in my soul. It's because I thought my tainted soul filling the heavens might waver, and if I execute this plan, Seo Ran might discover the secrets of my tainted soul filling the heavens. Seo Ran, too, seems to have recently gained a feeling for it. A perilous plan that might shake tainted soul filling the heavens and reveal its weakness to Seo Ran. However, Seo Atrial thinks that this plan is still better than proceeding with Plan 1 alone. Along with the original Plan 1, I will execute this plan simultaneously. That is the only way for Seo Atrial to raise his odds of victory against Seo Yunhyan. In the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens, Seo Atrial sharpens his vertical pupils even further and makes his decision. Good, it's a perilous plan, but I must attempt it. He rises from his spot and begins walking towards an event currently taking place in a corner of cedarwood painting. And in the deepest depths of Seo Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens, a voice resounds. You've gone mad, Seo Atrial, completely mad and corrupted. The western edge of cedarwood painting. In a mountain range known as the Golden Shaking Mountain Range, a grand hall has been erected for someone. This hall belongs to the person with the highest status when only considering distribution within the current Golden, Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. It is for Yeonwei. Yeonwei lies on a bed, staring at the ceiling. It seems my life is coming to an end. Her main body is a spirit that is enshrined in the head realm Golden, Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. What is here now is merely a split soul strand of her soul. In the past, when there was no vessel for this split soul to reside in, she always remained within her descendant, Yeonjin. But ever since Seo Yunhyan became a sacred master, Yeonwei resided in the human body Seo Yunhyan created for her, watching over the cultivation of Jeon Myohoon, who represents the very future of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. This has been Yeonwei's joy as of late. Step. A group of people enter the bedroom where Yeonwei lies. At the forefront is Jeon Myohoon, followed by several others. Yeonwei, is your body well? As the supreme of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, Jeon Myohoon speaks to Yeonwei equally. Yeonwei attempts to rise and show respect, but Jeon Myohoon stops her. Do not rise, that's an order. I've recently heard that your lifespan is coming to an end, but... Yes, that is true. Embarrassingly, as my lifespan diminishes, the attraction force of the netherworld grows stronger. Soon, I will likely be dragged to the underworld, to pay for the sins of my life. Yonwei. Jian Myohun speaks with a bitter expression. Now this esteemed one has reached the grand perfection star-shattering stage. Soon, I will undergo the advancement ritual to the sacred vessel stage and possibly become a sacred master. When that happens, with the authority of a sacred master, I can extend your lifespan. A sacred vessel is an existence of at least that much power. It is all right. I have already lived a life far longer than I deserve. I have spent too much time in this world and even witnessed the growth of Sir Jian Myung-hoon, the successor of the Golden Divine. Now, I simply wish to rest. Yonwei. Jian Myung-hoon, along with Kim Yon and Oh Hyun-seok, who have been with Yonwei from before, as well as Seo Ran and Hong Fan, who have gradually built a connection with Yonwei under Seo Yun-hyun, all wear gloomy expressions. How much time remains? At Jian Myung-hoon's question, Yonwei reads the celestial energy and responds. About 7 years. 7 years. For mortals, it is quite a long time. Some might say it is enough time to accomplish many things. But for Yonwei, whose spirit is that of a cultivator of the four-axis stage, the 7 years would be nothing more than an agonizing period of constant resistance against the netherworld's attraction force. Jian Myung-hoon lets out a sigh and closes his eyes. I will pray for your lifespan to increase. Following Jian Myung-hoon, Kim Yon, Oh Hyun-seok, Hong Fan, and Seo Ran all joined Jian Myung-hoon in their prayer for Yonwei. At that moment, may I join in that prayer as well? Seo Ran flinches in surprise and stumbles backward, while Hong Fan steps in to shield him. Jian Myung-hoon looks at the owner of the voice with an irritated expression, and Kim Yon glares at the figure with wary eyes. It is Seo Atrial. Jian Myung-hoon does not hide his annoyance as he asks. What is it, Sea Dragon King? Why are you here? Like I just said, I have come to offer my prayer for great Master Yon's well-being. At this, Kim Yon speaks in a solemn tone. She is probably questioning your sincerity. Hong Fan, seemingly focused on interpreting Kim Yon's words, barely manages to explain her meaning. Seo Atrial looks at Hong Fan. More precisely at Seo Ran, who is hiding behind him. From the sacred vessel stage onward, one gains the ability to influence the plane of fate, and the prayers of such sacred vessels can, by themselves, affect one's lifespan. With even a modest prayer, it is possible to extend a predetermined lifespan by 1 or 2 years. Are you saying you will extend Yonwei's lifespan? That is not what I mean. I am simply expressing goodwill. As the goodwill of a sacred vessel has the effect of enhancing lifespan on its own, I merely wish to offer my heartfelt prayer. And who are you to do so? I am a natural-born sacred vessel. At Seo Atrial's words, Jian Myung-hoon considers slapping him but clicks his tongue instead. Do as you please. If you attempt anything suspicious, Seo Yun-hyun will stop you anyway. However, only your genuine goodwill will be allowed. If you reveal any malicious intentions, whether you are Seo Yun-hyun's tool or slave, I will kill you immediately. As if Jian Myung-hoon's words are amusing, Seo Atrial laughs. Seo Atrial briefly meets Seo Ran's gaze before approaching Yonwei. He presses his palms together, as if praying to the land gods enshrined in a temple. Closing his eyes and erasing all expression from his face, he speaks. For your well-being, I Seo Atrial offer my prayer. Seo Atrial bows slightly. Yonwei watches this scene and nods absent-mindedly. Seo Atrial then smiles again, turns around, and exits Yonwei's chamber. Hey Kim Yon. Jian Myung-hoon asks with veins bulging on his face. I know you're specialized in consciousness. Did you sense any malicious intention from Seo Atrial just now? However, Kim Yon responds with a serious face. No, surprisingly he was sincere, she says. Hong Fan, straining his mind, interprets Kim Yon's language and delivers the message to Jian Myung-hoon. Hearing this, Jian Myung-hoon looks slightly surprised and stares in the direction Seo Atrial left. What is this? I've heard about his tainted soul filling the heavens from Seo Yun-hyun. I know of that Sea Dragon King's schemes and cunning. And yet, that sly man just walked away after offering a sincere prayer for Yonwei out of goodwill. Unable to understand, Jian Myohoon stares towards the place Seo Atrial has left. Leaving the hall built for Yon Wei, Seo Atrial hides one of his clones in the darkness. Then, in the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens, Seo Atrial hardens his expression. I've been exposed, Seo ran. Now that brat will try to delve even deeper into tainted soul filling the heavens. Seo Atrial's vertical pupils slit further as a cold look spreads across his face. Splatter. In the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens. From Seo Atrial's 7 orifices, black liquid begins to stream. At a glance, it almost resembles blood, an evident sign that his tainted soul filling the heavens is distorting. The backlash is too severe. The entirety of tainted soul filling the heavens is shaking. Rumble, 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 rumble. It is exactly as it seems. Starting from the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens, the configurations spread across the entire universe begin to tremble. Yet Seo Atrial laughs. Ho-ho, as expected, any action that violates the oath has a massive impact on the immortal art. Ho-ho. What Seo Atrial did just now is simple. He sincerely prayed for Yon Wei. As Kim Yon had detected. A sincere benevolence. Very simple and primal emotion. Nothing more. And yet, because of it, his tainted soul filling the heavens is shaking. The die is cast. Seo Atrial slits his vertical pupils and grits his teeth, smiling. I have staked everything on this act that's capable of overturning the foundation of my tainted soul filling the heavens. Over. He looks in a certain direction. It is not towards Glass Cedarwood Mountain, where Seo Yunhyan resides. It is towards where Seo Ran is. Because Seo Yunhyan has already grown too large to be part of his plan. He needs someone who can fit in his plan. And that person is none other than Seo Atrial's main body. Seo Ran. It is Seo Ran. After Seo Atrial has left, Seo Ran's eyes gleam. I see. With a slightly flushed face, he approaches Yon Wei and prays sincerely. Please let Elder Yon Wei's lifespan increase, even if just a little. O heavens above. Seo Atrial had said it. That he is a natural-born sacred vessel. And Seo Ran is Seo Atrial's main body. Which means that, although Seo Ran has yet to perceive it, he too is a sacred vessel. Therefore, with Seo Ran's wishes, Yon Wei's lifespan can surely extend. Even with Great Master Kim Yon's awareness, she didn't notice any tricks Seo Atrial might have pulled. Additionally, Senior Seo Yunhyan said he is always watching Seo Atrial and me. If Seo Atrial had done something suspicious, he would have noticed. Since neither of them has said anything, it means there's no problem with praying as Seo Atrial said. Seo Ran prays for Yon Wei with a heart of benevolence. Please let her remain by their side for just a little longer. At the same time, as Seo Ran reflects on the heart of benevolence, he realizes something. Seo Ran leaves Yon Wei's chamber alongside the others. Jian Myohoon and the rest immediately leave to cultivate or fulfill their assigned tasks, but Seo Ran holds back one of them. It is Kim Yon. Great Master Kim Yon, I think I finally understand now. At those words, Kim Yon, who was about to fly into the sky, turns back and lands in front of Seo Ran, asking, I don't know why Seo Atrial suddenly appeared in front of me and showed me so openly, but I finally understand. Seo Ran somehow feels a sense of relief. I have at last understood the weakness of tainted soul filling the heavens, and I think I can also finally be certain of the existence known as Seo Ran. Somewhere far away in the astral realm. On a certain planet, a woman is painting. She's a being named Seo Hai, and also a being who split from Oh Hai Seo. Suddenly, Seo Hai looks up at the sky. Have you found the answer, Seo Ran? Since splitting off from Oh Hai Seo, she has been pondering for thousands of years. Along with Seo Ran's tainted soul filling the heavens configuration attached to her soul. She has been contemplating on their identity together with Seo Ran. And after thousands of years, Seo Ran has found the answer to the question of his existence. The deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens. Within that deep darkness, an incarnation of Seo Atrial dressed in a dark red robe, formed from the overlapping wills of countless Seo Atrials, crawls across the floor, gritting his teeth. Buduk, bujajuduk, bujaduk. Black liquid seeps from his 7 orifices and across his body. The smile that had once hung on Seo Atrial's lips has disappeared, and with an expressionless face, he writhes in pain. Bujujuduk. Co Atrial clutches his chest and frantically scratches the floor of the deepest depths of tainted soul, filling the heavens with his hands. Each time his fingernails tear off, and black pus widely flows from his body. Even with an expression devoid of emotion, Co Atrial is clearly suffering. Have you established it, Co Ran? Co Ran speaks with certainty before Kim Yon, the Heaven Tribe's Co Yunhyan, who is not conducting the advancement ritual. The martial artist Co Yunhyan and Kim Yon and Hong Fan, who are present, all listen to Co Ran's answer. While spending time with the children of the Candle Dragon race, remembering them and holding them in my heart, and while spending time with Co Hai, while spending time with Shiho, finally, today I understand. No, perhaps I think it's more accurate to say that what I already knew has finally been established today. Co Ran smiles brightly. The weakness of tainted soul filling the heavens is benevolence. Though tainted soul filling the world manipulates the world as it pleases, it cannot invade the power of benevolence. That is why, through my mother's benevolence and love, I was born into this world. Kim Yon silently smiles and holds Co Ran's hand. Hong Fan looks at Co Ran with a subtle, ambiguous smile. It doesn't matter if I am not truly Co Ran. I have already received endless benevolence and love from innumerable connections, and I have also given it. As long as the fact that I have shared benevolence remains, I am Co Ran. As if finally free from the burdens that had weighed upon his heart, Co Ran smiles brighter than ever. In the distant astral realm, through Co Ran's tainted soul filling the heavens configuration, Co Hai, who shares Co Ran's enlightenment, sheds tears. I see Co Ran then, I too am Co Hai. With a face that somehow seems much more at ease, she looks up at the stars in the sky. Thank you, Co Ran. Center of glass cedarwood mountain. Co Yunhyan warmly smiles as he witnesses Co Ran's enlightenment. In his mind, the image of a comrade and friend from long ago. Someone who was also like a child to him, Co Li flickers faintly. Deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens. Co Atrial, who has been writhing in agony while vomiting black pus, finally clenches the ground and rises. His pupils, which were once merely slit, are now entirely drenched in a dark red hue, gleaming ominously. At last I have reached it, the relic of the guard dog, Chinese letter. Clench. Co Atrial gathers dark red energy into his left hand and clutches the void. While Co Yunhyan, Kim Yon, and the others all focus on Co Ran, who has achieved great enlightenment and finally revealed the weakness of tainted soul filling the heavens, establishing his own version of it. Co Atrial deceives everyone's attention and reaches the something he has been aiming for. It may have been sheer luck, a heavenly fortune, but Co Atrial succeeds. Co Atrial's consciousness finally pierces through the distracted consciousness of Co Yunhyan during his advancement, diving deep into his heart essence world. There, he reaches something embedded in one corner of the colorless sword enclosure. Long buried and nearly forgotten due to not being useful, Yuan Li's memento. Yuan Yu's blood body begins to emit a crimson light. Inside the colorless sword enclosure, Ohai Co, who has wandered the desolate wastelands of the colorless sword enclosure for thousands of years, suddenly looks up at the sky with disheveled hair and cries out, Avant Aya Ayuha. Tears fill her eyes. Ohai Co, whose emotions have been faint since birth, cannot help but have even those faint emotions burst out explosively at the signal that came after thousands of years. For thousands of years, she has wandered this desolate land, driven half-mad by fear and loneliness brought upon by Co Yunhyan. In that situation, Co Atrial's signal has reached her. Ohai Co, who had nearly forgotten the human language, collapses on the spot and bursts into tears. From the grasp of Co Yunhyan, the terrifying old monster who seeks to destroy the world. Co Atrial, the Sea Dragon King who inherited the bloodline of the sacred Sea Dragon race, connects with Ohai Co, the saintess of myriad beasts who has been imprisoned for millennia. Co Atrial, who has gambled for a sliver of hope to free himself from the grasp of Co Yunhyan, who wields the universe, now resolves to struggle with all his might against Co Yunhyan, who has become like a god. Co Atrial's desperate rebellion begins. Author's note, Co Atrial's spring has begun. If it fails, it's a rebellion. Chapter 523, Co Atrial's origin, Chinese letter, 4. Co Atrial's plan 1. The first plan involves using Yuan Yu. For some reason, Seo Yun Haiyan seems to feel a certain longing when looking at Yuan Yu, and because of this, he still hasn't completely discarded Yuan Yu's blood body. He merely embedded it deep within his colorless sword enclosure. Seo Atrial took advantage of that point. From the moment Ohai Seo reincarnated into the body of the Candle Dragon race, Seo Atrial gradually shaped Ohai Seo, essentially, Seo Hai, to resemble Yuan Li as Seo Atrial remembers him, and made it resonate with Yuan Yu's blood body embedded within Seo Yun Haiyan's colorless sword enclosure. At that time, Seo Hai and Yuan Yu were learning compatible methods, and through Seo Hai, it was possible to harmonize with the spiritual energy waves emitted by Yuan Yu, thereby activating the secret art within Yuan Yu. Devilish spell tainted soul sacred blood, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Borrowing the power of the blood yin realm, this spell combines the blood yin realm's devilish energy with Seo Atrial's tainted soul, filling the heavens to transform the area where tainted soul, holy sacred, is activated into a dimensional gate. He modified it into a method called summoning wind, sacred blood transformation, and had Ohai Seo learn it. Seo Atrial even slightly lowered its difficulty and power to make Yuan Li learn it as well. However, because Seo Yun Haiyan did not cultivate Yuan Yu's blood body through summoning wind, sacred blood transformation, it created a tricky situation. Nevertheless, it doesn't matter. After all, the very spell constituting Yuan Yu's blood body originates from the blood yin realm, making its degree of resonance with the blood yin realm no different from having learned summoning wind, sacred blood transformation. Thus, Seo Atrial's original plan was to resonate Seo Hai and Yuan Yu's blood devilish energy to activate tainted soul sacred blood within their bodies. If successful, Seo Yun Haiyan's heart essence world, specifically the interior of the colorless sword enclosure, would be immediately pierced by a dimensional gate directly connecting to the blood yin realm. Seo Yun Haiyan would then be captured by blood yin and reduced to his immortal treasure. No matter how much he uses his three great ultimates or whatever to exert entering nirvana-level power, resisting when a dimensional gate connecting to a true immortal is opened would be impossible. However, Seo Atrial believes that the success rate of this plan is not high. The biggest issue is the changed attitude of blood yin. Blood yin, who should have normally charged forward with frenzied madness at the mere sight of the karmic fire, instead observed calmly as Seo Yun Haiyan revealed both the karmic fire and clear-scale armor. This is far from a normal situation. Thus, Seo Atrial calculated a low success rate for Plan 1 due to blood yin's change in attitude. On top of that, with Ohai Seo being captured by Seo Yun Haiyan, the plan to activate tainted soul sacred blood through Yuan Yu's blood body also became difficult. However, an opportunity arose. Seo Yun Haiyan showed an opening. Moreover, if paired with this new plan, the success rate of the first plan would significantly increase. I've made contact with Ohai Seo. Seo Atrial whispers into the mind of Ohai Seo, who has wandered endlessly in the same space for thousands of years, trapped inside Seo Yun Haiyan's colorless sword enclosure. First, it was wise of you not to call my name carelessly. Aunt Aga Yuala. Of course, the reason Ohai Seo didn't call Seo Atrial's name is simply because, after wandering for thousands of years in solitude, she momentarily forgot human language. But to Seo Atrial, such details are irrelevant. Seo Yun Haiyan doesn't seem to have noticed. He likely interprets your outburst as part of your erratic behavior. For now, just follow my instructions. If you do, we can finally gain freedom and drag that Seo Yun Haiyan, who is soaring high in the sky, down into the mud. At Seo Atrial's whisper, Ohai Seo nods tearfully. Well then. After quickly conveying several instructions to Ohai Seo, Seo Atrial cuts off. The blood body of Yuan Li, which I prepared for activating tainted soul sacred blood, can only be used for communication for now, but it doesn't matter. Having already made contact with Ohai Seo, he left behind tainted soul filling the heavens in her heart essence. He can now communicate with her whenever needed. Though there is a risk of being detected while communicating within Seo Yun Haiyan's heart essence, it doesn't matter. I have polluted myself. In doing so, Seo Atrial even defiled himself while offering a prayer to Yon Wei, and Seo Ran did the same, also offering a prayer to Yon Wei. Though Seo Atrial denies the heart, he broke his vow and acknowledged his emotions, offering a prayer filled with the heart of benevolence to Yon Wei. Because of this, Coatrial's tainted soul filling the heavens embedded itself in Yonwei not as a configuration, but as the form of a heart. The extent of the shock and pain Coatrial experienced in this process was irrelevant. What matters is, Coatrial's heart is embedded in Yonwei, and Ran's heart is also embedded in Yonwei in the exact same way. The hearts of Coatrial and Ran, at long last, have come together inside Yonwei. And so, Coatrial waits for the moment when the heart is amplified to the peak, needing only to make contact with Yonwei once again. If Coatrial and Ran's hearts and prayers, now embedded in Yonwei, make contact, then Coatrial and Ran will finally be able to reconnect. So when will that moment of the heart's peak amplification arrive? The answer is simple. It is when living beings face death. Coatrial does not yet understand the great enlightenment that the heart is ultimately death. However, through experiential learning, he has learned that when the death of a living being approaches, its emotions are amplified to their peak. It doesn't necessarily have to be their own death. The death of someone close to them is enough to amplify a living being's emotions. Therefore, Coatrial smiles faintly. Yonwei's descendant, Yonjin was it, that would do nicely. Let's bring Yonjin before Yonwei's eyes and kill him. If that happens, Yonwei's emotions will undoubtedly amplify to its peak. That moment will be Coatrial's opportunity to connect with Ran. Though most of Yunhaian's comrades are said to be staying in cedarwood painting, a few remain outside. A chief example is Yonjin. Yonjin is diligently cultivating the lightning path method in the human race district of Cedarwood Grove in the bright cold realm. This decision was not Yunhaian's, but Yonjin's own will. Yonjin believes it is necessary to remain in the bright cold realm, observe the situation, and ensure there is a place for Yunhaian's group to return to if Yunhaian is defeated. Pajijijil. Having already reached the 4-axis stage, Yonjin changes genders using the Taiji quaking lightning body and generates lightning as he surveys Cedarwood Grove. Cedarwood Grove and its human race district are so peaceful, yet the outside of the bright cold realm is said to be a war zone. To be honest, it's hard for him to believe. No, even Yunhaian was just a senior in the nascent soul stage at a similar level to himself a few thousand years ago. Yet before he realized it, Yunhaian became a sacred master and is now waging war across the entire universe. In such a situation, the only thing Yonjin can do is his best to prevent public opinion about Yunhaian from worsening within the human race territory. Of course, it isn't so much that Yonjin is trying his best, but rather that Coatrial is working desperately to conceal Yonjin's existence from Baekwoon. Otherwise, Yonjin would have long been captured by Baekwoon and used as a hostage. Whether Yonjin knows this or not, he adjusts his black and white hair and prepares to resume his Taiji quaking lightning body cultivation. It is at that moment. It has been a while, Taoist Yonjin. Before Yonjin's eyes, Coatrial appears with a ho-ho. Yonjin bows his waist to greet Coatrial. Sir Sea Dragon King, it has been a while. As far as Yonjin knows, Yunhaian and Yonwei don't hold a favorable opinion of Coatrial. However, from Yonjin's perspective, Coatrial is one of Yunhaian's loyal followers who takes care of Yunhaian's affairs, so Yonjin doesn't harbor much ill will towards him. Or rather, it would be more accurate to say that Coatrial adjusted things to ensure that Yonjin doesn't feel any hostility toward him. Coatrial smiles faintly and extends a hand toward Yonjin. That aside, Taoist Yonjin, have you heard that Taoist Yonwei's body is unwell? Yes, I heard about it thanks to the letter Sir Sea Dragon King delivered. I was already thinking of visiting the ancestor, but with the war between the bright cold realm and cedarwood painting, it doesn't seem possible right now. Who? Coatrial shakes his head at Yonjin's words. Ho-ho, that is not necessarily the case, Taoist Yon. While it is true that there is war, it is entirely possible to enter cedarwood painting by passing through other realms that are unaffected by the conflict. For example, the nether ghost realm or the blood yin realm. So there was a way like that. Come to think of it, the nether ghost realm was also once the headquarters of the Wuji religious order. Yonjin nods as he rises from his seat. In that case, is it possible to leave immediately? If the ancestor doesn't have much time left, it would be best to depart as soon as possible. As expected of Taoist Yon Jin, such deep filial piety, in that case come with this king. We will pass through the blood yin realm to directly enter cedarwood painting. That sounds excellent, Elder Sea Dragon King. Wovung. At Yon Jin's words, Coatrial guides him into a secluded area of cedar wood grove and begins forming hand seals. Chaya. Ominous blood devilish energy begins to radiate from the surroundings, and the space around them begins to distort. Coatrial is faintly opening an entrance to the blood yin realm using his authority. Blood sacrifice consuming style. Wovung. A crimson circle gradually appears before Coatrial in Yon Jin's eyes. Coatrial sharpens his vertical pupils with a piercing gaze. The gate to the blood yin realm. I'll open it in Seo Yunhyan's heart essence using Ohai Seo and Yuan Li's blood body. Then, using the opportunity when Seo Yunhyan falls into chaos, I will take Yon Jin to Yon Wei. If I kill her descendant before her eyes, my plan will be completely. It is at that moment. Yon Jin's chattering voice pierces Coatrial's ears. Haha, by the way, with this, I'll have visited all 6 middle realms except the purple gold realm. I'm curious to see how it will differ from the true devil realm. Coatrial, aiming to gain Yon Jin's favor, smiles kindly and speaks. Your experiences are truly broad, Taoist Yon Jin. Come to think of it, didn't Taoist Yon Jin once undertake an adventure with Taoist Yon Wei, traveling from the bright cold realm to the nether ghost realm, then to the ancient force realm, and back to the bright cold realm? Yes, and before the golden divine heavenly thunder sect fell, I also traveled to the true devil realm with ancestor Yon Wei. This king knows of that story as well. I've heard that, while evading pursuit from the golden divine heavenly thunder sect in the true devil realm, you and Taoist Yon Wei installed a massive formation in one of the void spirit ponds there. Haha, it was the ancestor who set up the formation, so I don't know much about that. Instead, I just played with the local kids in the area. Ho ho, Taoist Yon Jin is truly kind-hearted. To think you even cared for the children like that. Yon Jin, as if embarrassed, twirls his hair around his finger and speaks. Rather than me being kind, it's more that sacred Master Seo Yunhyan has deep emotions. Back then, when he was at the nascent soul stage, he instructed me to consider the surrounding devil races even as we established the formation near the void spirit pond, and to build friendly ties with them. He even entrusted me with gathering the devil race children and playing with them. It was a bit tiring to play with the devil race children at that time, but thinking back now, it's also a fond memory. Children do seem to have a way of clearing the heart, whether they're of the heaven tribe or the earth tribe. That's true. Although among the devil race children, there were some mischievous ones who were already getting into romance and driving me crazy. I haven't even experienced romance yet myself. Ahaha, come to think of it, those kids were especially memorable. As Coatrial opens the entrance to the blood yin realm, he asks, I see, what were those children like to leave such an impression? Well, ever since they were young, they were running around saying they'd get married when they grew up. At the time, they were just little children from the Batwing race and the Horned Devil race. But since both of those races are part of a rather famous lineage of devils, known for requiring 5,000 years to reach adulthood in their breeding cycles, I told them, if you truly want to unite as one, it's going to take quite a bit of time. But then Su In and Hong Yon, those 2 rascals. Yon Jin, who was excitedly chattering beside Coatrial for a while, suddenly looks down at his own body, now transformed into a female form. Yon Jin sucks in a sharp breath and bites his lip. Are you crazy, Yon Jin? No matter how charming the Sea Dragon King is, what are you doing transforming into a woman right in front of him? Yon Jin, grappling with serious concerns about his gender identity, looks up at Coatrial. Indeed, Coatrial is charming. To the point where just standing there silently is enough to steal one's heart. Of course, Yon Jin doesn't realize that it's due to Coatrial's tainted soul filling the heavens. He has no idea that because Coatrial thinks, if Yon Jin has a good enough impression of me to open up completely and entrust everything to me, he'll become useful. He has fallen for Coatrial without even realizing it. But while Yon Jin cannot comprehend the domain of such immortal arts, he can at least sense that something about Coatrial is changing. By the way, Elder Sea Dragon King, are you feeling unwell by any chance? At Yon Jin's question, Coatrial erases the entrance to the blood yin realm. Elder Coatrial, weren't we supposed to pass through the blood yin realm, Yuok? Clenchu. Jin suddenly lets out a high-pitched scream as Coatrial's hands grip both of Jin's shoulders with force. Coatrial locks eyes with Jin, his vertically slit pupils meeting his, and wears the brightest smile he's ever shown. Indeed, I understand Taoist Jin's kindness well. To play with devil-race children, with whom you barely know, to such an extent. This surname Co can't help but be deeply impressed by your virtuous character. By the way, perhaps it's because you're from the Earth tribe, but your grip strength is rather painful. Could you please let go? I understand. By the way, could you remind me once more where that void spirit pond was, the one where you performed such noble deeds? Oh, that is. As Coatrial's face suddenly draws closer, Jin's cheeks flush red. Soon, with his eyes completely listing their focus, Jin divulges everything to Coatrial. And some time later, Ho-ho, Sir Sea Dragon King, if your face gets so close it's embarrassing. Ho-ho, is that so? I understand. Coatrial releases Jin, who suddenly begins echoing his own laugh and looks up at the sky. At last, Coatrial's hand trembles violently. Jin, too, laughs with a ho-ho and looks up at the sky alongside Coatrial. I've found it. All the Coatrials in the universe smile radiantly, their bodies trembling as if in ecstasy. Even after scouring the bright cold realm for thousands of years and finding nothing, it turns out you found it first and smuggled it to the true devil realm through Hyun Eum, Blood Yin. Coatrial laughs with bloodshot eyes. I've finally found it, the split soul of vast cold. Coatrial clenches his fist while staring at the sky, his body quaking. The heavens are aiding me, it's done now. Coatrial pushes Jin aside and melts into the darkness, disappearing from the spot. There's no need for cumbersome plans like opening the gate to the Blood Yin realm. The power of vast cold is now in my hands. There's no longer any need to hold back my strength. I just need to proceed. Finishing his thoughts, Coatrial moves through the darkness, heading towards an unknown destination. Normally, Coatrial would have taken Jin along for efficiency, even if it wasn't strictly necessary. Yet, he deliberately leaves Jin behind. Without realizing how strange he has become, Coatrial inexplicably smiles arrogantly as he vanishes. Yonwei opens her eyes. Deep into the night, she senses someone entering her chamber. Who is it? It is I, Taoist Yonwei. The sacred master has warned me that if you ever come to see me alone, it would be because you're scheming some vile plot. I was told not to engage with you. Leave. Yonwei responds without even glancing at Coatrial. However, Coatrial pays no attention to Yonwei's reaction and begins to speak. It seems the sacred master has already informed you about my tainted soul filling the heavens. In that case, you must also know that I could reach out to your descendant, Taoist Jin, at any time. Is it because you don't understand the true identity of the sacred master? You're quite bold. At the mention of Jin, Yonwei rises from her bed and looks at Coatrial. Do you even know what kind of being the sacred master is? Even if that person wears the guise of a sacred master, they are an entity above the heavens. Or, at the very least, they are someone who carries out the will of such beings. Someone like you has gone against such a being. Do you understand what that means? Yonwei glares at Coatrial with a grim expression. On the scales of fate, the lives of the likes of us can be toyed with whenever at will. Do you think you're threatening me right now? You're mistaken. As long as that being despises you, everything you do and every future you aim for are already within their grasp. Ho-ho, how terrifying. However, that person is not an entity of true immortal rank as you believe him to be. I know this with absolute certainty. Coatrial narrows his vertically slit pupils as he steps closer to Yonwei. I'm someone who has glimpsed the dream of a true immortal. I know how those beings dream, and Seo Yunhyan is absolutely not dreaming as a true immortal does. Therefore, while he may be connected to a true immortal rank existence, he is absolutely not a true immortal himself. In the first place, this sun and moon heavenly domain, unlike a proper heavenly domain, only has 3 true immortals. Clench. Coatrial's grip brutally seizes Yonwei's jaw. However, Yonwei does not panic and instead looks directly at Coatrial. This is merely a puppet prepared by the sacred master. Though crafted to perfectly resemble a mortal, it is no more than a backup vessel. My true soul resides in the shrine within the head realm. The location does not matter. After all, as long as there is attraction force, anything I desire will fall into my hands. It's only around this point that Yon Wei senses something amiss. What is this? Cohl is acting so suspiciously, yet why hasn't the sacred master reacted at all? You're having such obvious thoughts, Taoist Yon Wei. He read my mind. Yon Wei flinches in surprise, her body shrinking. Cohl gently smiles and strokes Yon Wei's head. The sacred master is likely quite preoccupied right now, because the Ohaisio who was quiet all this time has suddenly gone mad. Although Ohaisio's abilities and authority are nothing extraordinary, when applied creatively, there's nothing for her to fear. MMPH. You want to call Jian Myohoon? Ho ho, it's useless. Unless it's someone of Seo Yunhaian's caliber, none of his comrades. Unless the Mad Lord were to resurrect, can stop me. No, even if the Mad Lord were to come back to life now, I would still win. Cohl pulls something from his sleeve, while still gripping Yon Wei's jaw. It is someone's head. Despite being cleanly decapitated, the head is alive. With its eyes gouged out, it belongs to a devil race. The head of a woman of the Batwing race, despite being severed, wails mournfully, calling out a name in the language of the devil realm. Cohl crushes the head without hesitation, extracting the soul within and forcing it into Yon Wei's head. Wowung. The soul absorbed through Yon Wei's Beihui point flows through her upper dantian, then emits all its spiritual energy through the area between her eyebrows. Yon Wei groans as she feels her head somehow clearing along, with the sensation of her upper dantian burning. I once visited the serving command palace with the Mad Lord. While the Mad Lord planned for the wonderfully mysterious fortress, I planned for something different. Wowung. Reason fades from Yon Wei's eyes, and in her drunk-like state, she begins to pitifully call out for someone. Ho Hunwon, where did you go, Hunwon? Still wearing his gentle smile, Cohl clasps a hand behind his back, grabs Yon Wei by her hair, drags her out of bed and waves his hand. Kwaying. And in front of Cohl stands Kim Yon with a hardened face, leading Jian Myohoon, Kang Minhee, Kim Young-hoon, Oh Hyun-seok and others. Jian Myohoon glares at Cohl with a reddened face and speaks. I'll count to 10, release Yon Wei immediately within that time. Ho ho, there's no need to rush so urgently, why not chat with me for a moment? 10, I've counted, I'll kill you, Cohl. Immediately after, Jian Myohoon charges at Cohl. That's when it happens. Wowung. Quarvirung. A bolt of lightning powerful enough to shatter a planet descends, but Jian Myohoon's eyes widen in shock. Distortion. Space distorts due to attraction force. Jian Myohoon's single strike, twisted under the influence of attraction force, fails to reach Cohl and veers off in the wrong direction. Cohl, still holding Yon Wei's hair, spreads his arms wide and laughs. If you don't want to chat with me, then it can't be helped. How can someone like you wield this level of attraction force? As Jian Myohoon watches Cohl drag Yon Wei by her hair towards an unknown destination, his eyes become bloodshot. This can't be happening. There's no way his tainted soul filling the heavens can handle this level of attraction force. Unless he's completely brainwashed cedarwood painting and put it within this grasp, it's impossible. How could someone without immortal arts specializing in attraction force do such a thing? Cohl, stop immediately. Kirururung. Jian Myohoon transforms into the three-headed six-armed lightning god and shouts at Cohl. However, his voice does not reach Cohl. Peaceful cloud continent. Two-sided mountain range. Inside a large manor, one of Cohl's clones smiles faintly. How surprising, Hunwon, to think you pretend to be forbidden from cultivating by the sacred master while secretly practicing immortal arts. Well, I suppose it makes sense. Sunlight, rain, heat, cold, wind, and time. The immortal art of various omens is something integration stage cultivators should naturally learn. So you've been diligently practicing all along. However, Hunwon, who hears Cohl's words, does not respond. It's because he is bloodied and battered, his top knot tightly seized by Cohl. Hunwon's tongue has already been ripped out by Cohl, leaving him unable to speak. Ho ho, if you don't wish to respond, it can't be helped. No matter, I will assist you. Wowung. Cohl looks at the miserable Hunwon with a gentle smile and then pulls a head from his sleeve. It is the head of a male from the horned devil race. This head, too, has its eyes gouged out, and mournfully calls out to someone in the language of the devil race. Crunch. Woven. Coatrial crushes the devil race head without hesitation, extracting the soul within and infusing it into Hun One's Beihui point. And in the next moment, Hun One's eyes snap wide open. Shortly thereafter, tears of blood stream down his face as he cries out. CHCHCH, Jinra Chinese letter. Quarvirung. Deafening roars erupt from various points on Coatrial's face as his body begins to shatter apart. Simultaneously, from the cracks on his face, something resembling black pus oozes profusely, a clear indication of being shaken. Yet Coatrial remains unconcerned, smiling as he grabs Hun One's topknot and drags him outside. Dujajujido. The shout earlier affected not only Coatrial. The entire world is shaking. Is it because of the original owner of the phenomena extinguishing mantra, Ho? Jek jidajek jidajek. At the same time, an immense attraction force begins to form around Hun One. It seems to be an attraction force meant to merge with someone far away. Coatrial looks up at the sky with a faint smile. From the star-shattering stage and onwards, that is, the stage where one gradually approaches the principles of true immortals, the heart begins to transform into attraction force. However, this means that for true immortals, attraction force is essentially the heart. When one thinks about how immortal arts activated by attraction force and those activated by the heart are fundamentally the same, it's a simple principle. Jidajijik. Hun One and the someone far away. The attraction force with Yon Wei begins to grow stronger. In short, being able to control attraction force means being able to move the hearts of true immortals. The world is ultimately nothing more than a dream woven by true immortals. We are merely their toys, clowns performing on their stage. Therefore, our own hearts are ultimately meaningless. The only thing that holds meaning is the heart of the being that dreams. Coatrial, his face somehow bloodshot, looks up at the sky. Indeed, this is not just a soliloquy. He is speaking to Seo Yunhyan, who is no different from the entire world itself. Attraction force is essentially the heart. Therefore, if I obtain the ultimate attraction force, all the hearts in the world will fall into my grasp. In the next moment, Coatrial stretches out his hand. All the Coatrials hidden throughout cedarwood painting form hand seals in unison. Jidajidajek. The names of In and Yon imprinted upon Yon Wei, and Hun One's minds wail and strive to merge with each other. Simultaneously, an overwhelming attraction force arises within cedarwood painting, and at the moment when that attraction force reaches its peak, Payet, Coatrial disappears from cedarwood painting, and the place where Coatrial reappears is none other than the colorless sword enclosure. It is the place where Ohaisio, acting under Coatrial's orders, rampages madly. Kirururung. Anahahata, you're here, Coatrial. As soon as she sees Coatrial, Ohaisio throws herself into the arms of one of his clones. Coatrial pats Ohaisio's head and looks towards the direction she came from. There stands a massive altar. The altar is engraved with countless carvings of immortal beasts, and the eyes of the immortal beasts all glow simultaneously. And at the very top of all the immortal beasts are two figures. One is an immortal beast shrouded in deep darkness, and the other is an immortal beast in human form. Among them, the figure of the immortal beast in human form is moving under the influence of Ohaisio's authority. Is the ritual preparation complete, Haisio? Yes, Coatrial. I did everything as you said. I sacrificed my lifespan and offered it to the High Spirit Grand down 9 heavens overseeing fate preserving life celestial great emperor. That being as the covenanter and arbiter promised to hide the fate here. Did you bring them? Coatrial smiles faintly. One of Coatrial's clones is holding Yon Wei by her hair. Another drags Hun One by his topknot. And yet another of Coatrial's clones is gripping Seo Ran by his nape and bringing him to this very spot. Finally, we have succeeded, Haisio. By targeting the moment when the attraction force of In and Yon reaches its peak, Coatrial connected to Seo Ran through the hearts of himself and Seo Ran, imprinted within Yon Wei, finally capturing Seo Ran. Ohaisio, with a face brimming with joy, clings to Coatrial's embrace and weeps. Then we can leave now, right, Coatrial? Now we can finally leave and really escape from the belly of this Seo Yunhyan, right, Coatrial? I can't make any guarantees, but I will make it so. Now then. Clench. Coatrial grips Sia Rand's head and laughs. Disappear fake. Cherararak. At that exact moment, all of the Coatrials, except for the ones holding Yon Wei and Hunwan, are sucked into Seo Rand's body. However, even as Coatrial's elaborate plans near completion, Oh Hai Seo cannot bring herself to be happy. Coatrial, you said it was all coming together, but why? Why? Why is that Seo Ran able to remain so composed, even with you standing before him? Seo Ran is showing no signs of fear whatsoever. Instead, he is smiling warmly. And then, Yurururung. Hick. The colorless sword enclosure shakes violently, and Seo Yunhyan's figure appears before Oh Hai Seo. It is Seo Yunhyan wielding the colorless glass sword, with Seo Yunhyan draped in winged garments standing behind. With a hardened expression, Seo Yunhyan speaks. You will never succeed, Seo Atrial. Chapter 524, Seo Atrial's Memories 1. The two Seo Yunhyan stare with hardened expressions at Oh Hai Seo and Seo Atrial, who has entered Seo Ran's body. As soon as Oh Hai Seo sees Seo Yunhyan's face, she is so terrified that she hiccups, but still raises both hands in the air. I plead to the High Spirit Grand Tao Nine Heavens overseeing fate preserving life celestial great emperor. I beg thee, as the owner of names and the god of mankind, please reveal the real from the fake. At the same time, pale white vapor coils around the altar. The vapor, responding to Oh Hai Seo's plea, sternly blocks Seo Yunhyan from entering, as if declaring that no one may step inside while the distinction between truth and falsehood is being determined. However, Oh Hai Seo can feel the gaze of the two Seo Yunhyans piercing through the steam toward her. That gaze. For some reason, their terrifying gaze penetrates the vapor and fixes directly on Oh Hai Seo. Suppressing her fear, Oh Hai Seo sneers at the Seo Yunhyan outside the barrier. Ha 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 ha, what are you doing, Seo Yunhyan? Come on, do something, try anything. You're currently flustered because I called in all the immortal beasts and can't do anything. You can never enter here. Never to us your. Then Seo Yunhyan speaks. I'm sorry Su-in, Hong Yon. Once Yon Jin and Yon Wei met you too, I should have foreseen your whereabouts being inevitably discovered by Seo Atrial. It's all my fault. Step. Seo Yunhyan begins walking into the barrier. Oh Hai Seo collapses to the ground in shock. What? How? The only apology I can offer you is to remember you and to honor your deaths, I eradicating Seo Atrial and Oh Hai Seo, the ones who killed you. This is all I can do. Forgive me. Step. Oh Hai Seo trembles in terror as Seo Yunhyan cuts through the vapor and approaches. She grabs and shakes Seo Ran's body violently. As Seo Atrial, he's coming. He's coming. Seo Yunhyan does not restrain his rank out of consideration for Oh Hai Seo. He fully reveals the rank of his main body, which has reached the sacred vessel stage. That alone is enough to cause Oh Hai Seo to start foaming at the mouth and cry out for Seo Atrial. Finally, Seo Yunhyan's form pierces through the curtain of vapor and arrives before Oh Hai Seo. Unable to endure Seo Yunhyan's rank, Oh Hai Seo collapses to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Ignoring her, Seo Yunhyan gently strokes Seo Ran's head. Seo Yunhyan closes his eyes for a moment. A memory surfaces from not long ago. Senior, I have something to say. What is it, Seo Ran? Seo Atrial will eventually try to devour me. If I disappear, Seo Atrial will also completely collapse. As time passes, Senior and I will grow more familiar with tainted soul filling the heavens, and Seo Atrial will gradually be left with fewer options. He will try to make his move before that happens. Indeed. When that time comes, please do not stop Seo Atrial. What? When he first heard those words, he thought it was preposterous nonsense. What nonsense? Do you even understand the horrors of tainted soul filling the heavens? There's no need to worry. Because of that, Seo Yunhyan dismissed Seo Ran's words and resolved to face Seo Atrial alone. But the eyes of Seo Ran at that time were filled with certainty unlike any before. Moreover, his heart was clearer and brighter than ever before. I have already become a body that cannot be harmed by tainted soul filling the heavens. Seo Atrial is likely going to take a gamble in order to face Senior, but his gamble will fail because... Seo Yunhyan looked into Seo Ran's eyes. He saw the will residing in his heart. It was the same will Seo Yunhyan had learned from Qingmun Ryong on Pingle Island. It was a will capable of reaching immortal arts. Because I have come to know that I have been loved, I am Seo Ran. Even if I step into tainted soul filling the heavens, my mother, my master, Senior Shiho, Great Master Young Hoon, Miss Buck, Great Master Kim Yong, Great Master Min Hee, Great Master Hyan Siak, Hong Fan, Elder Yon Wei, and others. All the connections I've made thus far have given me love. I am Seo Ran. Even if I enter tainted soul filling the heavens, that will never change. Immortal arts change the world with the heart alone. He felt that power, far stronger than the immortal arts used by ordinary cultivators that change the world through attraction force. Seo Yunhyan granted Seo Ran's request. Furthermore, if it's you, Senior, even if I am devoured by Seo Atrial, wouldn't you still be able to overcome him? Seo Ran ultimately extracted a promise from Seo Yunhyan. Please do not worry about me, Senior, and if by chance I should fall and be consumed by Seo Atrial, I ask that you avenge me in my stead. I believe that Senior is more than capable of doing so. Seo Yunhyan recalls Seo Ran's smile. Will you promise me? Clench. Seo Yunhyan clenches his fist. Oh hi Seo. Nananana nodfnight infinitely see Atrial will win Seo. Atrial will free Seo. Atrial will properly reclaim his body end. This altar you've summoned, it must be that, isn't it? Seo Yunhyan slowly gazes at the altar. The reason he wasn't able to properly respond a moment ago was because Seo Atrial used Oh Hi Seo's power to wield her authority in her place and summoned the power of the Owner of Names. Because of the aftermath of the Owner of Names' authority, Seo Yunhyan had nearly failed his advancement ritual to the entering nirvana stage, leaving him temporarily unable to suppress the chaos caused by Oh Hi Seo and Seo Atrial. That's all. Seo Yunhyan analyzes the altar and begins to slowly dismantle the one summoned by Oh Hi Seo. Are you using the power of the immortal beasts to trace back their strength one by one until you reach and can borrow power from the one at the pinnacle, the former immortal beast king? Quadjijijik. As Seo Yunhyan clenches his fist, the altar summoned by Oh Hi Seo instantly crumbles into dust. However, the power of the vapor still envelops them completely. Seo Yunhyan, interpreting the lingering power of the vapor and the spell circulating within it, speaks to Oh Hi Seo, whose body is beginning to sprout glass all over. I can see through your plan. The former immortal beast king, also known by the title Owner of Names, you are trying to use them to determine who between Seo Ran and Seo Atrial is the fake and erase one of their names. Isn't that right? Seo Yunhyan looks down at Oh Hi Seo and smiles. But have you never considered this, Oh Hi Seo? What exactly determines the standard for deciding the fake? At Seo Yunhyan's words, Oh Hi Seo, despite trembling as glass sprouts from her entire body, raises herself shakily. In the end, whoever possesses the main body will likely be deemed the real one, but why assume Seo Ran would lose the main body to Seo Atrial from the start? As she looks up at Seo Yunhyan, who gazes down at her with a sneer, Oh Hi Seo grits her teeth as she trembles in terror. Why did you assume Seo Ran would be determined as the fake? Did you ever consider the possibility that Seo Atrial might be the fake? A being with a heart is a fake. Seo Yunhyan looks at Seo Ran's face, his eyes gleaming. A being with a heart can never be a fake. Therefore, I believe in you, Seo Ran. Defeat Seo Atrial and come out. Deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens. Inside, Seo Ran wears a peaceful smile. Dark red shadows writhe, attempting to invade Seo Ran's body, but they cannot penetrate the warm light radiating from within Seo Ran's heart essence. Seo Ran smiles softly and gazes warmly at the darkness before him. It seems I am the victor. Grandfather Seo Atrial, no, Seo Atrial. Your darkness cannot invade me, because I am loved. Seo Atrial cuts off Seo Ran's words and gazes at him with an expressionless face. That's right, I do not know what you experienced in the past, but your darkness will never be able to consume me. I have received the hearts of so many people. Therefore, as long as this heart resides within me, I will never disappear. Di Yang. Seo Ran looks up at the sky of darkness. Chia. Vapor. Before a colossal giant of vapor. At some point they arrived there. The giant of vapor holds a scale in one hand, and Seo Ran and Seo Atrial each occupy one side of the scale's plates, staring at each other. The plate holding Seo Atrial begins to sink lower, while the one holding Seo Ran gradually rises higher. I am the real one, therefore admit defeat, Seo Atrial. Then Seo Atrial smiles. It is not his usual gentle smile, exposing his teeth and awkwardly moving his muscles to form a grin. Seo Atrial's signature. Sincere smile. You pathetic thing, what do you even know? Seo Yunhyan looks down at Oh Hai Seo, who has crawled slowly up to his ankles, even as glass protrudes from her entire body. Ava Yua, Aya. Trembling from the rank emanating from Seo Yunhyan, Oh Hai Seo continues crawling. Slowly and slowly. Then she lifts her head and speaks to Seo Yunhyan. Ro NG. What is wrong? Seo Yunhyan looks down at Oh Hai Seo with a detached expression. Oh Hai Seo smiles. It's not simply an altar built to reach the owner of names. And the reason you're telling me this. You, among your comrades, isn't there someone you've forgotten? At those words, Seo Yunhyan flinches. Then, as Seo Yunhyan sweeps his consciousness rapidly across the entire cedarwood painting, his face twists like a fierce evil spirit. Quadjijijik. Seo Yunhyan grabs Oh Hai Seo by the collar, glaring at her intensely. Return him immediately. I can't do that. Even though she is trembling in fear of Seo Yunhyan, she does not move. Instead, she simply smiles. Then, under her shadow, a fragment of the altar that Seo Yunhyan destroyed. The one fragment that depicts the immortal beast Heavenly Fox, Chinese letter, shines ominously. Deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens. At the same time, the place where the real and the fake are being distinguished before the owner of names. Seo Ran widens his eyes as he looks at the someone who appears there. It is Shiho, using Oh Hai Seo to confuse the sacred master's eyes, and while his focus is distracted, using the authority of the immortal beast Heavenly Fox to bring the fox race soul that can be considered its distant descendant. Seo Atrial snaps his fingers with a face devoid of any emotion. In the next moment, Seo Atrial's tainted soul filling the heavens begins to envelop Shiho's soul and rides. Immediately after, a horrifying scream echoes from within the sphere of tainted soul, filling the heavens that envelop Shiho. From now on, I will torture your beloved. Seo Atrial. Seo Ran's face twists violently. At the same time, the light emanating from Seo Ran's heart essence flickers and wavers. Seo Ran forces himself to maintain composure as he looks at him. Seo Atrial raises the corners of his mouth, looking at Seo Ran. Why are you so concerned with that? It's meaningless. Do you really believe you love that thing? You're wrong. It's simply because I poured all the maternal nature within me into you that you took it upon yourself to claim to be a female. It's only because you grew up with all positive connections severed by me that you fell into a state of affection deprivation. With each word he utters, the light within Seo Ran shakes violently. You do not love it, and it does not love you either. That thing simply fell to your tainted soul filling the heavens while being beaten by the one named Kim Young-hoon. It fell in love with tainted soul filling the heavens, not you. It's a false connection. You, trapped in affection deprivation, placed tainted soul filling the heavens on that fox race to seek an outlet for the maternal nature you had suppressed within yourself. It's no different from a burst of lust. Seo Ran. The hearts of connections or whatnot. From the very beginning, you were never being capable of giving or receiving any love. As Seo Ran's light flickers, the darkness of tainted soul filling the heavens seems to dig further and further into him. The balance of the scale they stand on begins to shift. Seo Ran descends, while Seo Atrial rises. But all of a sudden, Surururuk. The rays of Seo Ran's light stabilize. Seo Atrial sees this and erases his smile. Do you not understand? From the beginning, you have never received any. No, Seo Atrial. Seo Ran meets Seo Atrial's eyes. You're wrong. At the smile that blooms on Seo Ran's face, Seo Atrial's eyes tremble violently. I have never brainwashed Shiho with tainted soul filling the heavens, and my sexual preferences are normal. I absolutely have no inclination to be penetrated by a cross-dressing male fox who likes men while moaning in pleasure. How vulgar. Yes, truly vulgar, but that's how it ended up. Seo Ran smiles with a slightly embarrassed expression. It is Seo Ran's sudden confession, one that does not match the atmosphere of the moment at all. Seo Atrial, however, looks even colder. His gaze shifts to the tainted soul filling the heaven sphere where Shiho is trapped. Inside, the groans of agony have noticeably weakened. With just that one joke, he interfered with my tainted soul filling the heavens. Is he gradually becoming more adept at handling it? Coatrial heightens his vigilance as he glares at Ran. Ran continues to speak. I didn't want my master to die, but my master trusted me and passed away. And even Elder Jian Hyang, who acted differently from how you wished, loved me before she departed. All of this points to one undeniable truth. Ran's eyes burn brightly in the darkness. Within the darkness, his gaze begins to drive away the darkness of tainted soul filling the heavens. A person's benevolence stands above tainted soul filling the heavens, above anything else. Even though Ran didn't wish for his master's death, Song Jin passed away without regret because he trusted and loved Ran. Even though Ran didn't initially accept Shiho connected with him because Shiho loved him so deeply that he transcended gender, race, and the brainwashing effects of tainted soul filling the heavens. Even when everyone shunned Ran under the influence of tainted soul filling the heavens, only Jian Hyang genuinely cherished him, preventing him from committing suicide. And Yuo, who was fated to be entirely corrupted by tainted soul filling the heavens, instead brought forth Ran in place of Atrial because of her love for him. I will not lose Atrial. Nothing about me is fake. Because it isn't fake, I believe Shiho will endure, because I too now love him. Payet. The brilliant light bursting from Ran's eyes illuminates the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens. Kiyiak. The scale upon which Ran and Atrial are seated evens out once again. Atrial stares at Ran expressionlessly. Love her, how pretentious. He speaks while glaring at Ran. You, who were so jealous over Yukyo, dare to speak of love. At Atrial's words, Ran breaks into a cold sweat. Now this is where it truly begins. Ran steels his heart against the ominous malice emanating from Atrial. Atrial snaps his fingers with lifeless, hollow eyes. If you want it so much, I will show you. If you can bear this hatred, then it doesn't matter if I lose. Now let us both recall my oath, my other self. Immediately after, in the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens, the memories of Atrial's childhood, carefully preserved there, engulf Atrial and Ran. Shiho, writhing in unbearable agony, suddenly regains his senses. This place is... It is the deepest depths tainted soul filling the heavens. Dragged here by Atrial and Ohisio's schemes, Shiho was swept into this place by the authority of his distant ancestor, without even the chance to properly resist. Here he finds himself caught between Atrial and Ran. He is merely a sacrifice in the battle between the two personas that form one essence. The last thing Shiho remembers is that Ran, through a joke, briefly awakened his consciousness, and immediately afterward, Atrial moved a dark red wave to engulf both Ran and himself. What happened, the result is... As he regains his senses, he looks at Atrial and Ran, both seated upon the strange scale. At that moment, Kiyiek, the balance scale lurches, and Ran and Atrial both regain their senses and open their eyes. And Shiho can only be struck with shock. Died. Ran is now dyed in the same dark red light as Atrial. Ran is shedding tears of blood. I see, so that's why I was jealous over her. That's why I wanted to destroy Yukyo so desperately. This world truly is. Ran's anguished gaze meets Shiho's. Shiho feels deep despair, pain, and sorrow in Ran's eyes. Ran. He likes Ran. It's not because of something like tainted soul filling the heavens. He just likes him. From the day they first met, even though nothing about them matched whether race, gender, status, or cultivation realm, Shiho wanted to be with Ran. Because of this, he cannot simply stand by and watch Ran in such pain. Even amidst the torturous torment of tainted soul filling the heavens, Shiho looks into Ran's eyes and shouts, Ran. Atrial turns around with a meaningful smile. Ran stares at Shiho with blank eyes. Don't forget me. Ran's pupils widen. The despair clouding his eyes seems to retreat slightly. Then Atrial's pupils split vertically. Book. That is the end. Shiho's life ends just like that. Ran stares ahead with vacant eyes. Shiho's soul is being torn apart. Shiho's spirit body. Its neck is severed. The arms, legs, and tail of the spirit body are all torn apart, and Shiho's shattered spirit scatters deep into the darkness of tainted soul filling the heavens. Shiho is dead. It is over. At the most critical moment, Seo Atrial killed Shiho, who had intended to act as Seo Ran's greatest support, all while wearing a gentle smile. I've won. Seo Ran disappear. Kiyek. Seo Ran's spirit body lowers its head blankly. The plate holding his body begins to gradually descend. After witnessing Seo Atrial's memories, Seo Ran was thrown into despair, struck by the overwhelming truth of his own essence. Then in that moment, he saw his cherished beloved ripped apart and killed as he was cheering for him. It's an irreparable wound. As the scale gradually tilts downward, the light protecting Seo Ran is devoured by the darkness. And then, just as Seo Ran's spirit body is about to completely fall and dissolve into the darkness. Thunk. The scale stops. Seo Atrial looks down with a puzzled expression. Seo Ran, with nails torn out and bleeding, scratches desperately at the bottom of the scale as he looks up at Seo Atrial. Though his face is clearly filled with despair and defeat, a single glimmer of determination rests in his expression. Seo Atrial, yes, for now I have lost. Even as he speaks, his body continues to dissolve into the darkness. But for some reason, Seo Atrial feels that the light in Seo Ran's eyes hasn't entirely disappeared. But just because I'm in despair, it doesn't mean that my connections or the fact that I was loved will vanish. Never. Kick titigig titigig. The scale holding Seo Ran begins to tilt. Seo Ran's spirit body gradually starts to slide deeper into the abyss. I was loved by my mother, by Elder Jian Hyang, by Senior Yun Hyan, by my master, by everyone, even if I die. Seo Ran slides faster and faster off the scale. The truth that I was loved, that alone, will never disappear. And finally, Seo Ran's body falls from the scale. Seo Ran falls deep into the darkness. So my heart too. Seo Ran begins to dissolve. The thick darkness consumes him. But for some reason, Seo Atrial cannot take his eyes off him. The light radiating from Seo Ran's eyes seems to hold him in place. Will never disappear. With those final words, Seo Ran vanishes. Zilling. Simultaneously, the judgment of the owner of names, determining the true and false among the two personalities residing in one body, descends. Ding. In this world, the name Seo Ran is stripped away by the owner of names. Now, Seo Atrial can no longer recall the name of Black Square he had fought against just moments ago. At the same time, the name of Black Square is erased from the memory of the majority of mortal beings in this world. It is as though Black Square has been excised from history. And so Black Square is defeated. All that remains is Seo Atrial. Yet Seo Atrial feels that the desperate voice Black Square left behind at the end reverberates within his chest for some inexplicable reason. Why is it? Seo Atrial senses that someday, that voice will greatly alter his fate. It shouldn't matter. Seo Atrial decides to forget the name and final moments of the defeated. Because he still has the goal he swore to achieve from the moment he first opened his eyes in this world. At last, Seo Atrial reclaims his main body, which had been stolen by Black. He has recovered the emotion he had hidden away for thousands of years. Allah. In the deepest depths of tainted soul filling the heavens, where the traces of the owner of names have vanished, leaving only Seo Atrial. In that place, Seo Atrial clutches his chest and trembles from the overwhelming wave created as the emotions of his childhood, reclaimed after thousands of years, merges with the memories stored in the deepest depths. Hateful. After a brief moment spent suppressing his emotions, Seo Atrial finally opens his eyes to reality. Snap. It happens in an instant. When Seo Ran opens his eyes and snaps his fingers, Han Wan and Yon Wei, along with Oh Hai Seo, are suddenly transferred outside my colorless sword enclosure. I look at the person standing before me. The person's gaze has completely changed. It is neither Seo Ran's nor Seo Atrial's. It is not the pair of empty eyes, nor is it the gaze filled with hopeful purity. The eyes are murky. It appears unfocused and, at the same time, it surpasses the simple malice that I felt from Seo Atrial. I sense overwhelming pain and hatred emanating from them. I realize what has happened. What has become of Seo Ran, Seo Atrial? At the name I utter, Coatrial appears to flinch slightly. However, he smiles faintly and responds. What do you mean, Taoist Co? From the beginning I have always been one. Is that so? With a sorrowful gaze, I reach out my hand. Regardless of what has happened following his wishes, I will avenge Co Ran. This vengeance is not only his. This is also for Su In Hong Yon, the vengeance of the two children. Quajik. I crush and kill Coatrial standing before me. But his soul slips away. It likely escaped through the deepest depths of tainted soul, filling the heavens to a distant place. With a cold gaze, I reach out my hand. I won't let you escape. Kagagugugu. Ohisio sheds tears as she watches countless stars pass by around her. After thousands of years, finally, she has been freed from within Co Yunhyan's stomach. Coatrial, I'm finally out, I'm finally free. But the expression on Coatrial's face, as he leaps across vast distances with her, is not particularly bright. Glancing briefly at Hunwon and Yonwei in his hands, Coatrial turns to look behind him. Kagagugugu. From far behind, Co Yunhyan's hand is chasing them. Still chasing, strange, how is he able to track me? There must be something. Frowning, Coatrial leaps across countless stars, carrying Ohisio, Hunwon, and Yonwei. It's strange. Through tainted soul filling the heavens, he has erased all traces of himself within cedarwood painting. Even succeeded in removing Co Yunhyan's sub-heart sword from within his body. Having reclaimed his main body and regained his eyes, it wasn't an impossible feat. And yet, Co Yunhyan is pursuing him across thousands of light years. Just how is he managing to track me? As he ponders, Coatrial suddenly notices something. It is a trace within his tainted soul filling the heavens. It is not some mark left behind by Co Yunhyan. Rather, it is more like a trace that something left from inside, tainted soul filling the heavens to the outside. This trace, could it be? As Coatrial identifies the source of the trace, for the first time since awakening in this world, his face twists into an evil spirit. You did this, you sent it over. How dare you? How dare you? No matter what, you are me. How could you hand over my oath to another? Coatrial roars with genuine fury into the vast cosmic space. The one whose name he can no longer remember, Black. During their battle, they had sent Coatrial's memories to outside tainted soul filling the heavens. To Co Yunhyan. Now Co Yunhyan is using the memories passed on by Black Square to track Coatrial. Coatrial screams in genuine rage at Black. As long as Co Yunhyan possesses the memories passed to him by Black, Coatrial cannot escape Co Yunhyan's pursuit. Because Coatrial's memories and oath are the very essence of his being. I hold the memory of Coatrial that Co Ran passed on to me. Clutching the information body that contains that memory, I relentlessly pursue Coatrial and Ohisio with an arrogant expression. The object in my hand resonates endlessly with Coatrial, as if it's his very essence. Yes, this feels like the connection between the blood of the sea dragon race and summoning wind, true blood transformation. It is as though their mere existence connects them to one another. Co Ran, I will never forget you. As I use the memory of Coatrial, obtained thanks to Co Ran's sacrifice with no damage or resistance, I continue my pursuit of them. Coatrial's past unfolds vividly, piece by piece before my eyes. Chapter 525, Coatrial's Memories 2. Chapter 525, Coatrial's Memories 2. The first memory of the existence called Coatrial was their mother and father enveloped in a pure white light. The two smiled brightly at them, who was then just a baby. In their childhood, they grew up receiving abundant love from their parents. Memories of childhood are generally blurry. Coatrial's memories are also hazy. However, one thing is certain. Coatrial, while they may not have always been loved, was undoubtedly happy. And that continued even after their personality fully developed and learned that their name is Coatrial. Coatrial was a happy person. Though their life was a bit shabby, they could read some words as the child of a family that ran a bookstore and was considered one of the brightest among the village children. Coatrial mastered all written characters and basic learning materials by the age of 5. However, despite possessing such genius, Coatrial's parents neither urged nor pressured them. They simply loved them as they were, and whenever they excelled at something beyond others, their parents simply praised them, saying they did well. Coatrial's mind became sharper by the day. Simply observing something was enough for them to grasp its principles, and through that, they understood the world. Coatrial, while observing lightning strike the ground, attempted to guide it with a kite and even created a lightning rod. They also invented a water wheel, which their village lacked, and crafted saddles and stirrups. The children, young adults of the village, Coatrial's friends, all of them liked Coatrial. Everyone said the same thing, that Coatrial would surely grow up to be a great figure. However, Coatrial still did not have a clear goal. It might be more accurate to say that because they possessed the ability to do anything, they didn't know what to pursue. Martial arts, scholarship, cooking, farming, inventing, hunting. Whatever it was, Coatrial would perfect it and even identify ways to improve and refine them further. This was Coatrial's talent. So what exactly was such a Coatrial supposed to do? Coatrial did not know. Thus, they began to observe the people around him. As Coatrial's friends grew older, they got married. Coatrial also asked their parents. They asked if they, too, needed to marry a man or a woman. Their parents replied, "Everything under heaven and earth follows the principal Chinese letter of Taiji, pairing as it should." Coatrial decided to follow their words. However, Coatrial couldn't decide whether they should marry a man or a woman. While contemplating, they reasoned that if they married a woman and became a husband, they could travel the outside world, observe more and better comprehend the principles of the world. Thus Coatrial became a man. He became a man, chose a girl who liked him, held a wedding and became someone's husband. After marrying the girl, Coatrial gradually matured, taking charge of all the village affairs and broadening his horizons. At times he went on journeys. At times he visited the capital to learn more about the world, and at other times he joined wars, galloping to the ends of the earth beside a conquering king. In this way Coatrial aged. He traveled the entire world and grasped the principles behind countless events that occurred within it. With his old, near-death body, he eventually returned to his home village and peacefully closed his eyes amidst the blessings of his home village's people. He lived one life, full of happiness and satisfaction, and departed as such. Coatrial. He lived to the age of 90. Coatrial opened their eyes again. It felt as though they had woken up from a long dream. Coatrial realized that something was strange. A powerful sense of déjà vu washed over them. At the same time, they saw the faces of their parents within the radiant light. However, Coatrial found it strange. These parents were not Coatrial's parents. Their parents found it strange that Coatrial was not crying and smacked their bottom. A baby girl not crying but only rolling her eyes. How ominous. Coatrial pretended to cry for the time being to grasp the situation. And then they understood what was happening. Coatrial had reincarnated. But it was a bit peculiar. For one, the beings who were now their parents were clearly people Coatrial had seen in their previous life. That's right. Coatrial was born to their former life's father-in-law and mother-in-law. As Coatrial grew older, they gradually came to confirm their existence. Coatrial had reincarnated into the body of their own wife, returning to the childhood of her past. It was such a bizarre event that Coatrial was always lost in thought, trying to explore its principles. And watching such a Coatrial, their new parents, their in-laws from the previous life, despised them, saying, "A girl who doesn't speak and whose thoughts are impossible to know is utterly ominous." Then Coatrial discovered something strange. The parents, who had been their parents in their first life, did not exist. Following this, the Coatrial of the previous life also naturally ceased to exist. As a result, even though Coatrial had been reincarnated into their wife's body, they were able to retain the name Coatrial. They, or rather she, continued to ponder. Why had such a thing occurred? However, Coatrial's parents came to view her as increasingly ominous, and as soon as Coatrial grew mature enough, they sold her to a beggar on the street. Coatrial became the beggar's wife, lying beneath him, observing and analyzing new experiences she hadn't gained in her previous life. But for some reason, Coatrial could not have children. In fact, it was the same in her previous life. Coatrial had lived an entire lifetime without having children, and this life was no different. The beggar, angry at Cohreal for her inability to have children, beat her savagely and roughly violated her body. And one day, Cohreal was eventually beaten to death by the beggar. She died at the age of 18. Cohreal opened their eyes again. Once again, parents were looking down at them from within the radiant light. Cohreal understood what had happened. They had reincarnated again, and this time to an earlier point in time. Cohreal figured out who they had reincarnated as this time. One of their friends from their first life. This time he was a boy again. Reincarnated as a boy, he observed his surroundings, and he began to feel an inexplicable sense of déjà vu. It was such a strange déjà vu that Cohreal instinctively understood. This strange déjà vu was the very cause of his repeated reincarnations. Thus, he grew up under new parents. As Cohreal grew under his new parents, he realized two things. First, these new parents didn't like Cohreal either. Like the previous life, his new parents disliked how Cohreal constantly brooded over something. Seeing him observe the world and explore its principles, they accused him of simply playing around and frequently scolded and beat him. Second, the Cohreal and his parents from the first life, and the Cohreal of the second life, had all disappeared. The Cohreal from the previous life. In other words, the Cohreal who had reincarnated into the body of his wife in the first life, had disappeared in this life. Word was that his previous parents, his in-laws from the life before that, ended up in such a way that the father-in-law became an eunuch and could no longer consummate their marriage. The very casuality, Chinese letter, that would have led to the birth of Cohreal's wife in the first life had been erased. Cohreal did everything he could from his current position to figure out what was going on. First, he utilized the knowledge from his previous life to restore his family's fortunes. Then, using his family's power, he gathered shamans, sorcerers, monks, and Taoists from all over the country to investigate whether such a phenomenon had happened before. Cohreal absorbed their knowledge, learning everything he could, and read every piece of literature dealing with strange events, Chinese letter, supernatural forces, Chinese letter, and ancient myths from all corners of the world. However, he could not find a single clue. Nevertheless, Cohreal did not give up and scoured the world for all kinds of information on sorcery, spells, ghosts, and heavenly deities. And Cohreal failed to realize that his parents and siblings feared him. No, he knew. But even if he knew, he never thought that parents could harm their own child. Because in the common sense Cohreal knew, parents might beat, scold, or berate their children, but they were still parents. Even if they could sell their daughters to beggars, they were still parents. For that reason, while collecting information on all kinds of ghosts and supernatural powers, Cohreal naively trusted them. No matter what, he never thought his family would harm him. Cohreal, trusting the parents who feared him and living comfortably in their house, even after reaching adulthood, was strangled to death in the middle of the night by his parents and siblings. Cohreal opened their eyes again. Amidst the pure white light, they saw new parents. Cohreal felt a strong sense of déjà vu. They recalled how their parents and siblings from the previous life had strangled them in their sleep, and decided to reassess the situation. However, realizing that they had been directly killed by their own parents brought forth an indescribable flood of tears, leaving them unable to think clearly. The fourth life of Cohreal was once again as a girl. She was one of the girls who had followed the Cohreal of the first life, admiring him. The parents of this life, seeing Cohreal barely speak, refused to eat, and often sobbing quietly, believed she was possessed by a ghost. Thus, when Cohreal turned 5, they sold her to a pavilion in the city. Cohreal, sold to the pavilion, did menial work and eventually grew into a courtesan. Utilizing her unique analytical skills and ability to grow, she quickly rose to become the top courtesan in the brothel. None could match her in poetry, calligraphy, music, and dance. She learned much at the pavilion. The art of captivating people, the techniques to seize their hearts, the ways to keep them clinging, and more. However, because she never thought favorably of the pavilion itself, she persuaded those who clung to her to walk the proper path, arranging good marriages for them so they would never return to the pavilion. While Cohreal's reputation grew, the pavilion faced declining patronage, gradually falling into poverty. Regardless, Coatreal used her status and position to continue investigating this phenomenon. As she was bound by her status as a courtesan, she could not leave the pavilion and had to rely on others to continue her investigation. She realized it was the same in this life as well. The Coatreal of the first life and the causality that brought him into being. The Coatreal of the second life and the causality that brought her into being. And a previous life, the Coatreal of the third life and the causality that brought him into being, all of it had disappeared. The parents who had killed the Coatreal of the previous life had become infertile and could no longer have children, preventing the birth of the existence that was Coatreal's former friend and Coatreal themselves. The same was true this time as well. Every time Coatreal was reborn, the connections from the previous life were being erased one by one. At this rate, all the connections that the Coatreal of the first life had known would eventually vanish. Before it came to that, Coatreal resolved to solve this situation and once again retrace the events of her past life. As a courtesan, she gained access to forbidden books and texts she had never seen before in her previous life. Coatreal summoned countless shamans, Taoists, monks, and priests, accumulating their knowledge. And finally, she realized something. Monks, Taoists, and shamans could not provide the answer to this situation. Although she had read all the scriptures and legends they provided, none of them explained the phenomenon she was experiencing. Thus, she continued to ponder what method itself could explain this phenomenon. But one day, the pavilion owner attacked Coatreal. Knowing the lust the pavilion owner harbored for her, Coatreal pretended to give in. However, after violating Coatreal, the pavilion owner cut off her tongue. Then, after severing the tendons in one of her legs, he sold her to a red pavilion specializing in prostitutes. The reason was absurd. The owner claimed that because of Coatreal's whispers, too many patrons had stopped coming to the pavilion, worsening its finances. And so, Coatreal was sold to a pleasure pavilion. Having experienced being pushed beneath a man in her past life, she did not fear receiving many men. She engaged with men, and at times women, gradually understanding humanity. Although her tongue had been cut out, such a thing was not particularly necessary for her learning. She was able to learn much in the red pavilion. She went beyond merely captivating or binding people to her. She learned how to make them devote everything to her. The art of completely seizing control over people and manipulating them. She learned how to exploit human desires. Amidst a world overflowing with countless desires and lust, Coatreal came to understand humanity. And, eventually, while manipulating and captivating people, she became entangled in a love-driven conflict and had her neck cut by a man who claimed to love her. Coatreal died at the age of 36. Coatreal opened their eyes. Amid the radiance, new parents appeared before them again. Once more, they felt a strong sense of déjà vu. They recognized who they were in this life. Coatreal was born as the beggar. He was the beggar who had been the husband of the Coatreal of the second life. Once again, Coatreal's parents in this life were not good people. Coatreal remembered how, on his first birthday, one of his parents, drunk on alcohol, had tried to strangle him to death but fell asleep in the process. As the days went by, Coatreal was beaten more and more. His father and mother were both the same. They were always eager to kill Coatreal. And Coatreal once again felt that the physical bodies of his previous lives had completely disappeared along with the casualty. However, at this point, Coatreal no longer knew what else to do. He had investigated every myth and legend. Moreover, he had read through countless texts and scriptures from the shaman family Chinese letter, immortal family Chinese letter, and the Buddhist family Chinese letter on supernatural powers. He learned about Buddhist family entities, such as the Seven Brilliances Chinese letter, Twin Venerables Chinese letter, and One King Chinese letter. He also came to know of the 11 governings Chinese letter of the immortal family. He even heard countless stories about minor gods and ancient deities Chinese letter from the shaman family. All of them were bizarre and astonishing, but that was all. None of it provided a solution to Coatreal's situation. Moreover, the situation only continued to worsen. For some reason, the parents of his fifth life gradually came to hate him more and more, and eventually sold Coatreal to a labor camp. Coatreal became a mining slave, working in a mercury mine. While extracting mercury ore, Coatreal was gradually exposed to heavy metal poisoning, his body growing weaker. Realizing that this could not go on, Coatreal used all of his abilities. Using his skills, he captivated the mine overseers and managers, subtly manipulating their psychology until, at the perfect moment, he seized an opportunity and escaped the mine. However, after escaping the mine, he was overwhelmed with despair. What on earth was he supposed to do? What more could he possibly do? Coatreal was in so much anguish that he no longer wanted to do anything at all. He drank the mercury elixir that the mine owner occasionally consumed. It wasn't just the mercury elixir. He gathered hallucinogenic plants and made drugs that pavilion customers used to smoke, and consumed them himself. Everything seemed about to end. But, at that moment, while high on drugs and his body soiling itself in the drug's intoxication, Coatreal felt something through the drug-induced hallucination. It was déjà vu. Coatreal felt an overwhelming sense of déjà vu and instantly sobered up from the drugs. That was it. The strong sense of déjà vu Coatreal felt each time he started a new life. Finally, in the depths of his wretched existence, and under the influence of drugs, Coatreal had managed to uncover a clue about his life. From that day forward, Coatreal sought out and inhaled all kinds of drugs. The initial sense of déjà vu became harder to feel the more drugs he consumed. Coatreal felt it was because he was getting accustomed to the drugs. Thus, he began seeking even stronger drugs. Addicted to drugs every day, he begged and labored to obtain them, hoping to feel that powerful sense of déjà vu once again. Though his intellect and skills could have allowed him to earn money quickly, his drug intoxication made even that difficult. His thoughts became limited to only base and degrading ideas. Simple labor or begging were the only ways he could obtain drugs. However, he needed increasingly stronger drugs to feel the déjà vu, and the stronger the drug, the more expensive it was. As a result, at some point, Coatreal began stealing. Coatreal displayed talent even for theft. Each day, he broke into the apothecary's storeroom, producing drugs even while intoxicated by them. He had expertise even in making drugs. As he manufactured drugs daily, he could create countless varieties of drugs through his own unique formulas, and lived every day drenched in those countless drugs. But then, on one such day, Coatreal, in a state of weakened reason due to drug intoxication, created the ultimate drug. Upon consuming the ultimate drug, he finally succeeded in partially uncovering the nature of the déjà vu. Coatreal felt the boundary between this world and the illusory world created by the drug growing faint in the midst of the déjà vu. He didn't know exactly what that meant. But one thing was certain: hope had emerged. However, while intoxicated by the ultimate drug, Coatreal was caught stealing from the apothecary that day. Flayed alive, he was turned into human Giaco Kolchutka Inus. He died at the age of 45. Coatreal opened their eyes once again. In this life, she was reborn as a girl. Ignoring the parents gazing down at her in the radiance, Coatreal quickly analyzed the situation. It was still one of the women who had followed Coatreal around in the first life. Coatreal began living her life in the body of the woman. However, this family was even more of a dead end than the previous one. Coatreal's parents were quickly taken by the plague, leaving her to be raised by one of her relatives. Under her relative's care, Coatreal endured all manner of humiliation and abuse from a young age. But none of that mattered. At some point, Coatreal stopped caring about concepts like ethics. She simply used her abilities to take control of her relative's household and bent it to her will. Then, to ensure they could not fear her or even have the thought of fearing her, she directed their attention elsewhere. She created a target for their hatred. By subtly whispering that the elderly scholar from the neighboring house was stealing the harvest from their fields, she provoked them into conflict. With a target for their hatred, the household lost their minds and stopped paying any attention to her. She used her appearance and body as tools to bring the entire village into her grasp. First the village, then the town, after that the city. After bringing the leaders of countless factions under her thumb, she eventually managed to place even the emperor of the nation beneath her. She became the empress. As the Empress, she began purchasing medicinal ingredients from across the nation to recreate the ultimate drug. However, even the ultimate drug could no longer evoke that same sense of déjà vu. She became accustomed to that too. Coatreal pondered. How could she plunge her mind even more rapidly into the abyss than with the ultimate drug? She summoned all the experts across the nation to solve this question. Doctors and female physicians gathered. At the same time, shamans and sorcerers assembled. Finally, after extensive discussions with countless experts, Coatreal came to an understanding. The most powerful drug of all was ultimately the human brain, Chinese letter. A person's brain, as the manufacturing center for all kinds of hallucinogenic substances, could exhibit a potency far stronger than any drug if its potential were unlocked. Hearing this, Coatreal set out to discover a way to manipulate her own brain. At first, she used medicine, but eventually she turned to the sorcerer's spells to plunge her mind into hallucinations. Amidst the déjà vu that surrounded her, she realized a few truths. While she might have been happy at first, as the days passed, she would inevitably become unhappy. She didn't know why. That fact was determined. How could she escape this cycle of misery? How could she escape this cycle of suffering? Coatreal pondered these questions. However, no solution presented itself. She merely continued refining her techniques for manipulating the brain. One day, she finally uncovered the principle behind the sorcerer's spells. It was a form of hypnosis. Disguised as a ritual and incantations, it was a technique for manipulating the mind. Coatreal established a field of study called hypnotism and began to delve further into its study. But, after spending over a decade immersed solely in hypnotism, the crown prince born of another consort ascended to the throne. By the will of the new emperor's mother, Coatreal was subjected to the punishment of becoming a human pig. Her limbs were severed, and she was thrown into a pigsty. Coatreal died in the pigsty. She died at the age of 54. However, within her painful life, Coatreal smiled as she died for the first time. It was because she had deceived her brain through hypnosis, convincing it that the situation was joyful. As she was torn apart by pigs, she laughed and laughed. The seventh life. The moment Coatreal was born, they looked up at the parents smiling at them beneath the light and smiled faintly back at them. By now, they had come to understand a few of the laws of her life. First, the self from the previous life is entirely erased along with the cause and effect. Second, through the use of drugs or hypnotism, they could deceive the brain and experience a strong sense of déjà vu. Third, the longer their life goes on, the more miserable they would become. That was it. And just as expected, as soon as Coatreal was born, the parents of this life sold Coatreal to bandits and told them to make Coatreal into baby jackal. Coatreal's fate was definitely to die as a baby jackal. However, using the hypnosis they had mastered in their previous life, Coatreal controlled the bandits. And having grown up in the bandits' mountain hideout, they once again came to realize who they were. He was, shockingly, the father-in-law of Coatreal from the first life. He was also the father of Coatreal from his second life. He had discovered another law of life. Regardless of time or space, he would continue to reincarnate, replacing someone who originally existed. Upon discovering this truth, Coatreal dedicated his life to uncovering the knotter of the déjà vu. He hypnotized and brainwashed countless commoners, manipulating the minds of many. At the same time, Coatreal continuously refined his own mind through hypnotism, pushing himself deeper and deeper into the depths of hallucination. The deeper he went, the stronger the déjà vu became until at some point, Coatreal discovered something else within the déjà vu. It was loathing, Chinese letter F9B9. Hatred. A powerful hatred, Chinese letter, surrounded Coatreal's entire life. And Coatreal realized what it was. The Coatreals of the previous lives. In other words, it was the hatred of those who had been replaced by Coatreal. The hatred of those who had been replaced by Coatreal and erased from the world blanketed the entirety of Coatreal's life. Because of their hatred, Coatreal could only become increasingly miserable and suffer more and more as time went on. Within his agony, Coatreal shed tears of blood. This could not go on. If things continued this way, all the people Coatrial cherished would gradually be replaced by Coatrial himself. He quickly had to find a way to end this way of life. Thus, Coatrial continued searching relentlessly for a solution. It was on one such day. Coatrial reached the pinnacle of hypnosis, achieving a state where he could instantly fall into hypnosis and traverse hallucination. His control over his brain had developed to the point where he could instantly manipulate it to release hallucinogenic substances in abundance. And within the hallucination, Coatrial felt the strongest sense of déjà vu he had ever experienced. It was the sense of déjà vu where the boundary between reality and illusion blurred. Within that sense of déjà vu, Coatrial glimpsed a terrifying possibility. In an effort to deny this possibility, Coatrial mobilized every bit of knowledge and logic he possessed to push it away. However, Coatrial's level of hypnosis had become far too advanced. Where once he had relied on drugs to feel déjà vu, he had reached the point where, with just a minor adjustment of his brain, he could feel it at will within his hallucinations, and even peer beyond it. As Coatrial observed this déjà vu, he came face to face with a truth he could not refute with any logic. That truth was, this world was a dream. That's how it was. Rewinding time, reincarnating with memories intact, and life growing increasingly unfortunate as it went on, those were all things possible only in a dream. However, Coatrial wanted to deny that possibility. That all his stories, all his pain, all his life amounted to nothing more than a dream. That was absolutely unforgivable. But Coatrial soon found himself desperately wanting to escape this dream. The reason was very simple. For that simple reason, Coatrial decided to research a way to leave this world. He even used his own death as a tool to study this world within a dream, and took his own life. He died at the age of 63. The eighth life. Coatrial refined hypnosis to its utmost limit. Through hypnosis, they sought to awaken their brain and realize their true essence. This was also a struggle to wake up from the dream. Under the light, Coatrial brainwashed their parents who looked down at them, turning them into Coatrial's puppets and erasing their personalities. After all, they were merely characters in the dream. They weren't Coatrial's real parents. Thus, they controlled their parents like puppets without hesitation. They then hypnotized everyone in the village whom they had once considered friends, brainwashing them into Coatrial's puppets. Every connection could be used and discarded like a worn-out shoe. After all, it was all fake. These replaced existences would, sooner or later, pile up layers of hatred, gradually pushing Coatrial's life into a pit of misfortune. Coatrial toyed with the minds of thousands and brainwashed countless people, turning the entire world into their puppets. However, even after brainwashing the entire world, Coatrial realized that they could not wake up from the dream. Coatrial couldn't figure out what was wrong. To find the problem, they pushed themselves even further, delving deeper into the abyss of their mind through hypnosis. And finally, Coatrial understood. The reason they couldn't escape this world was because they didn't understand their own essence. They had to remember who they were before they began dreaming. Why were they the only ones special enough to repeatedly reincarnate within this dream world? Perhaps it was because the entity known as Coatrial was the owner of the dream. If so, then what kind of being was Coatrial before they started dreaming? If they could find the answer, they might discover a way to wake up from the dream. They had to find out who the real Coatrial was. In short, they had to understand their essence even more deeply. That was the only way to escape this world. From that day on, Coatrial repeatedly hypnotized themselves to look back into their own past and learn about themselves. Coatrial fell deeper and deeper into the dream. It took decades. Even after having the world in their grasp, Coatrial spent decades and finally connected with their essence before the dream. Coatrial's essence was dry and mechanical. They didn't know exactly what it was, but Coatrial was merely a terminal, sent somewhere, by someone to search for something incredibly precious that had been lost. A purposeless existence, mechanical, only following orders and performing actions as commanded. Secret art, purple soul filling the heavens. That thing having fallen somewhere, mixed with the fragments present there and became something new. That was Coatrial. And then, so that's how it is. Upon realizing this truth, Cohreal said, "Was I nothing more than someone's technique?" Cohreal committed suicide. They died at the age of 72. Even suicide was useless. Cohreal still had to wake up under the new parents, who smiled down at them beneath the light. And through Cohreal's recent suicide, they understood. A living being at the moment of death reaches the extreme limits of emotion and mind. Cohreal, who could reach the deepest depths of their mind through hypnosis, realized that the moment of death was the very instant one could reach the peak of the mind. They didn't know why this was so, but it was something they had discovered after experiencing death several times. At any rate, Cohreal succeeded in reaching the extreme of the mind, and there, they faced the source of the déjà vu. They completely understood the structure of the world. The reason they could not leave this world. It was because Cohreal was never the protagonist of the dream, to begin with. They weren't even the central pillar of purple soul filling the heavens. To be precise, the technique purple soul filling the heavens had mixed with this world and scattered across its many corners. And Cohreal was merely one of those countless scattered fragments. Not purple soul filling the heavens, not anything else. They were merely one of the characters of the dream, and thus Cohreal was fated to suffer eternal torment within this dream world. Indeed, a supporting character of a dream. That was Cohreal. As a being within the dream, Cohreal realized the meaning of their existence. They existed to replace the characters in the dream in case there were too many of them, reducing their numbers and alleviating the fatigue of the owner of the dream. And finally, they realized a way to escape this world, a way to wake from the dream. It was through the power granted to them by their role. Replacement. They had to replace the entire world with Cohreal. In the end, if they replaced everything in this world, nullified every connection they had, and left only themselves and the owner of the dream, in this world, Cohreal would naturally be absorbed by the owner of the dream. With nothing left to do in the empty dream, the owner would inevitably wake up from the dream. In short, they had to reincarnate endlessly until every existence in this world was replaced by Cohreal. If they could endure until then without their personality collapsing, Cohreal would finally be free. And, upon realizing this truth, Cohreal finally wept bitterly. Just why? Why must I endure such suffering? Are you telling me everything I've built up was meaningless? Cohreal lived in suffering. Even though they knew that everything in the world was a dream, they lived in suffering. To suffer is ultimately to accept. Those who refuse to accept something do not suffer. Only those who accept something suffer. Cohreal, despite knowing the world was a dream and that nothing held meaning, had still accepted the beings of the world in some corner of their heart. Even as their sense of ethics wore down, even as they viewed the world as half-fake and treated its inhabitants as disposable tools. Half of Cohreal was still accepting this world. But Cohreal finally realized that they could no longer endure the pain. They could not endure that endless time. Nor could they ever accept such an ending, where every connection from their first life, their only happy life, was completely replaced by Cohreal's own wretched self. Cohreal collapsed on the spot. Who were they? What was this world? Who, in the world, could have created such a vicious and agonizing dream system? Cohreal sat there, weeping bitterly and agonizing over these questions. Cohreal could have shattered their own personality and erased their memories. But Cohreal couldn't do that, because they had a goal to wake from the dream. If they were to forget even that, Cohreal would be finished. Thus, they did not erase their personality. Instead, they pondered and pondered again about how they could escape this world. 81 years passed that way. For 81 years, Cohreal pondered until their body reached the end of its lifespan. And Cohreal finally made a decision. I will not spend thousands, hundreds of millions of years replacing the entirety of this world and waking from the dream. He could not endure that long passage of time. Moreover, they couldn't be sure that the one who would wake from the dream would even be Cohreal themselves. That was the worst possible ending. In that case, they had to choose the lesser evil. In this life, I will end everything. Cohreal shed tears of blood. They too had a heart. He had emotions, though they might only be a supporting character in a dream, a mere tool for the owner of the dream. They still thought of themselves as a living person. From their second life onward, the emotions weren't particularly strong. However, the connections from their first life, the only time they had been truly happy, were still precious to them. At some point, they began to see themselves as nothing more than a puppet, but even puppets can have attachment. Even if Cohreal thought of them as characters in a dream, Cohreal held a strange attachment to them, especially after realizing that they themselves were nothing more than a supporting character in this dream. However, Cohreal decided to abandon that attachment. They decided to abandon those connections. To endure pain is to accept. But Cohreal could no longer accept the connections within the dream. With that resolve, Cohreal began to fragment themselves. Though Cohreal had often manipulated the minds of others through hypnosis and brainwashing, Cohreal had rarely interfered deeply with their own mind, beyond pushing it deeper into hallucinations. Cohreal finally began to manipulate and fragment their own mind. They did not go mad. The process of fragmenting their personality was painful, but they knew that if they abandoned themselves, there would be no more pain. Cohreal began transforming themselves into a configuration. And, as Cohreal transformed themselves into a configuration, they finally crossed a line that had remained in a corner of their heart. Even when Cohreal had brainwashed the people of this world, Cohreal had never violated their essence. But after crossing that line, Cohreal began to invade their very essence. Beyond simply brainwashing and turning them into puppets, Cohreal repeated the brainwashing process until they turned into configurations, transforming them into perfect replicas of Cohreal themselves. Each time they brainwashed one of their friends, Cohreal cried out in agony, tears streaming down their face. All of them, they were Cohreal's friends. They might be nothing more than puppets to Cohreal now, but they were the ones who had been Cohreal's friends in the first life. They might have held no practical meaning, yet they were meaningful to Cohreal. They were Cohreal's heart. In this way, Cohreal began replacing every character in this dream world with a Cohreal, filled with hatred and pain. They turned the entire world into Cohreal. After surpassing a certain threshold, Cohreal felt the very essence of the dream begin to distort. The boundaries of the world blurred, and everything began to dissolve into an illusion. And finally, when everyone had been replaced with Cohreal, Cohreal was able to behold the owner of the dream. So you were there. Cohreal looked at the ray of light. With the entire world replaced by Cohreal, only they and the ray of light in the sky remained in this dream. No, to be precise, it was the being sealed within the ray of light. Cohreal entered the ray of light. They felt the sensation of a seal, but it was incredibly faint. Rather than a seal, it felt more like wrapping. Within the ray of light was a dark red glow. Cohreal asked the dark red light, "I ask you, what is the purpose of my existence, I?" Cohreal voiced their goal to wake from the dream. "I, my parents, you, my origin, what kind of being are you? Who is the owner of the dream? What kind of being are they? And what were they thinking when they created this world?" Cohreal merely wanted to know that. After being born into this world, just knowing that single truth was the purpose and reason Cohreal had struggled to wake from the dream. And then, the being Cohreal believed to be the owner of the dream spoke. Incredible, for a mere supporting character in a dream born from the primordial chaos of ancient force to pass the trials meant for the successor Aten percent, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, and reach before me. Editor, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter equals ender. The Aten percent, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, the being spoke of was beyond Cohreal's comprehension. But Cohreal could roughly grasp the meaning of what the being was saying. This world was merely a testing ground for someone else. That's right, a trial world meant to pass on the miracle of the predecessor to the successor. You were nothing more than a supporting character within the dream born from ancient force, designed to secure the computational space of the world and maintain the virtual reality until the successor Aten percent, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, arrived. And yet, how did such a miracle occur? Ho-hoo-hoo, interesting. Aten percent, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, indeed. With a gloomy expression, Cohreal asked the being, Who are you? Only now could Cohrial understand. The being before Cohrial was not their origin. It was merely the administrator. It was not the being who held the answers Cohrial sought. And the administrator, before Cohrial answered their question. I am, yes, Agate Chinese letter, call me, Agate for now. The moment Cohrial heard its title, they understood Agate's essence. Its essence was singular. Hatred. Yes, Cohrial finally understood why, despite being meaningless characters within a dream, the concept of hatred had accumulated layer by layer throughout their life. Cohrial understood why their life had been filled only with pain, hatred, and loathing, and why their life had been set to flow in that direction. Because the administrator of this world, because the very fabric of this dream was built upon the concept of hatred Chinese letter,